Chapter 190. Qi Yunfei immediately cheered and said, Good, good, I'll ask him. While waiting for her reply, Lu Qing found Qin Rui's QQ and sent him a message. Qin Rui, are you there? I have something to ask you. In less than a minute, Qi Yunfei said eagerly, It's called Yaoning Martial Arts Club. He said it's a very good club in Ningxue. Brother Lu Cheng, go and ask him. Okay. Seeing that Qin Rui's QQ didn't respond, Lu Qing opened his address book and called him. After the classic ringtone, the phone was connected. Qin Rui was surprised and happy. Cheng, why do you suddenly want to call me? Are you back in Xioshan? No, I have something to ask you. Lu Qing answered with a smile. Have you heard of Yaoning Martial Arts Club? Ah. Yes, I know. What's wrong? Did they annoy you? Qin Rui was a little surprised and a little confused. Lu Qing thought about how to describe the relationship between the two parties and said after some consideration, a relative's child doesn't want to enter high school and plans to enter the Yaoning Martial Arts Club after graduating from junior high school. Hee, that's why I'm here to ask you about the details of their family. Yaoning Martial Arts Club, how to say? It's okay. I've seen the club owner several times. He's of amateur first pin. Several of his disciples are also good. They teach students diligently. It's one of the best martial arts clubs in Ningxue. Qin Rui answered while thinking. Lu Qing was relieved and said, Then I'm relieved. At this time, Qin Rui hissed and smiled. What are you relieved about? If he really wants to learn martial arts, why don't he come to Gushan Martial Arts Club? We don't dare to say we're the best in Xioshan, but we're definitely in the top 3. We're better than Yao Ning in every aspect. Don't worry with me here, he'll definitely sign up. I'll help you look after him and guide him. The fees collected from the students were one of the main economic pillars of the martial arts school. Logically speaking, the martial arts school should not refuse them. However, this was not the case. It involved a very important figure, the passing rate of the ranking event. The number of instructors in a martial arts school was limited, so was the number of students they could instruct wholeheartedly. If they recruited students blindly, they would exceed this limit, which would lead to a serious decline in the teaching quality, which would worsen the passing rate of the ranking event. This would easily lead the martial arts school into a vicious cycle. The passing rate would continue to decline, and the good students would choose other martial arts schools. Without good students, the passing rate would continue to worsen. Because of this, all the martial arts dojos knew to set a threshold and stop before going too far. This caused the best martial arts dojos in an area to be in short supply, causing people to scramble like ducks. It does sound better. Lu Cheng said modestly. Will it be too difficult for you? What's so difficult about it? Who do you think we are? Qin Rui patted his chest and said, Just give him my phone number, and let him contact me directly. You don't have to go through all that trouble. Okay. I'll treat you to a meal when I come back to Xioshan during the summer vacation. Lu Qing said gratefully. He didn't ask how many teams in Xioshan were doing in the preliminaries, because according to Qin Rui's usual posts about his mood and other things, it was obvious that they didn't have a good result. As for Qin Rui himself, he was still some distance away from the amateur first pin, so he didn't plan to participate in the 2 amateur ranking events in the first half of the year. After chatting for a while, Lu Qing hung up the phone and sent a smiley emoji to Qi Yunfei. Ask your boyfriend if he wants to go to Gushan Martial Arts School. Ho ho ho. Qi Yunfei didn't know much about martial arts, so she casually replied. A few minutes later, she sent a shocked emoji. Who wouldn't want to go if he said he could? Brother Lu Cheng, do you really have a way? According to her boyfriend's description, the places of Gushan Martial Arts School seemed to be very popular. Her cousin was just a college student, so how could he have any ability and connections? Did her uncle know someone in Gushan Martial Arts School? Lu Qing sent her his phone number. Let him call this number. Qin Rui, an inner disciple of Gushan Martial Arts School, can help him sign up. Really? Qi Yunfei couldn't believe it. If Qin Rui dared to lie to me, he wouldn't want to live anymore. Lu Qing laughed secretly and said seriously, It must be true. As for whether he will cheat your boyfriend of his money, I can't guarantee. Tell him to be careful. Got it. Qi Yunfei didn't send an emoji, as if she was anxious to let her boyfriend make the call. While waiting for the follow-up, Lucheng resisted the sleepiness and began to browse the tourism projects around Songcheng. He wanted to pick out the routes that Yanjika might like and make a detailed guide, so as not to leave a bad impression on the girl. He was looking forward to it. He wasn't excited about the possibility of more intimate contact. Instead, he felt that traveling together, experiencing new and interesting things together, and uncovering some aspects that were previously suppressed due to being in a familiar environment together would strengthen their relationship and make them feel more at ease. According to talkers' sayings, a relationship needed to be managed. It was not something that could be done without doing anything once it was in hand. But if they were always cautious and careful with each other, sooner or later they would be tired. While comparing and analyzing the different routes, Lucheng opened Taobao and bought several things in the shopping cart. Some were snacks for Yanjika, and some were for him to show off his skills. After a while, Qi Yunfei replied, "Brother Lucheng, what he said is true. He knows Brother Rui. He said that Brother Rui is a core disciple of Gushan Martial Arts School, and a very powerful young fighter. He can definitely help." "That's good," Lucheng replied with a smile. Qi Yunfei sent an admiring emoji. "Brother Lucheng, you are so awesome to know such a powerful person. Should it be the other way around? It should be Qin Rui who is so awesome to know such a powerful person like me." Lucheng complained and said carelessly, "He is my high school classmate." "No wonder." Qi Yunfei suddenly understood and didn't ask anymore. Lucheng said with interest, "Feifei, you are very attentive to your boyfriend." "Of course, after all, he is the first boy that I really like." Qi Yunfei laughed. "Really?" Lucheng was a little confused. Qi Yunfei scratched her head and said with an embarrassed emoji, "I had a boyfriend before." "Before?" "Sister, you are only in the 3rd year of middle school." Lucheng was really shocked. "When was that?" "When I was in the 5th or 6th grade, and the 1st or 2nd grade of elementary school." Qi Yunfei explained confidently. "At that time, I was a child and didn't know anything. I thought it was fun and tried it. It's all their fault for making a match. But it's just holding hands. It feels like we're playing house. I don't think it's a real relationship." Lucheng wiped his non-existent cold sweat and said, "You are still a child now. Look at her, and then think about his own elementary and middle school years. He was as ignorant as her brother." He was scared and didn't persuade Qi Yunfei. After a few words, he logged out of QQ and took a nap. In the next few weeks, Geezer sure didn't force any setbacks. When facing the last 2 opponents in the group, he let Lucheng and Lin Kei sit at the end of the group respectively. Then he sent Li Mao, Yanjika, Sun Jian and Lin Hua to fight in turns. The final result was no doubt that Songqing University Martial Arts Club won all the matches and advanced to the next round with a winning record. Now they were waiting for the distribution of the broadcasting bonus and the drawing of the top 8 opponents in May. In the blink of an eye, it was the second last weekend of April. At 7:30 in the morning, Lucheng and Yanjika were already on the school bus to the old campus. "I didn't expect that my first martial arts special training would be because of you," Yanjika said with a sigh and a sweet voice. Today was the day that Lucheng would participate in the professional ranking event. As his girlfriend, she felt that she shouldn't miss it, so she specially asked for leave and accompanied him as Coach Yan. Of course, she wouldn't slack off martial arts because of love. She deliberately got up early and did nearly 2 hours of morning exercises. Lucheng was very happy and moved, but he said with a smile, "Actually, you can ask for leave next Sunday. I'm sure I can get through the group stage." Professional 9th pin was the threshold to distinguish between amateur and professional. The setting of the competition emphasized to reduce the influence of accidental factors, so that fighters with enough strength could have a chance to regroup even if they lost once. Therefore, the top 2 fighters would get through the group stage. Fighters wouldn't be eliminated after losing 1 match. Even if Lucheng wasn't conceded, he wouldn't think that he couldn't even get the 2nd place in the group stage. Hearing Lucheng's words, Yanjika immediately raised her arm and said cheerfully, "Then I'll go back to the martial arts club?" Lucheng was almost speechless. He felt that he shouldn't be hypocritical, so he immediately said with a cheeky smile, I still need Coach Yen to take charge. I'm afraid that I'll be assigned to the death group because of my bad luck. Yenjika glanced at him with a smile. At least you know your place. After that, she sighed. I'm really worried. With so many matches, maybe something will happen. She suddenly raised her hand and covered her mouth, not letting the word accident come out. That was almost a jinx. Due to the setting of the top 2 fighters in the group stage and the fixed passing ratio, the schedule of the ranking event of professional 9th pin was increased accordingly. It usually took up 2 weekends, a full 4 days. Like this time, the number of people who passed the registration review was 158. There were 15 places. They were divided into 15 groups of 10 to 11 people in each group. It was a single round-robin competition. The top 2 fighters would get through. According to the rhythm of 3 matches a day at most, the group stage would be finished on the morning of next Saturday or Sunday. Because one step was enough to become a professional, all aspects of the treatment would be improved substantially. Therefore, as long as the amateur first pin fighters' physical fitness hadn't deteriorated, and they didn't have other things to do, they would often choose to try their luck. What if they encountered a good group and a good draw for the knockout round? Therefore, the number of people who signed up for the ranking event of professional 9th pin was quite large. If there were no restrictions, the number of people who passed would exceed the limit, resulting in a flood. Therefore, there was a qualification examination. The applicants had to submit proof that they had defeated at least 2 amateur first pin fighters in the past year. Lu Cheng directly posted a video of him defeating a professional 9th pin fighter, and passed smoothly. Seeing the girl covering her mouth in panic, Lu Cheng was about to make a joke when he saw the flying eyebrows gorilla Chen Zhonghua carrying a luggage bag and stepping on the school bus. President Chen, I thought you lived near the arena last night. He greeted him. Chen Zhonghua was still the president of the martial arts club in name. Well, I have a few friends living there. I was afraid that they would take me there to relax. Chen Zhonghua smiled bitterly and found a seat. He didn't say anything and closed his eyes to rest. He was quite cautious. Compared with him, Lu Cheng suddenly felt that he was too relaxed. When they arrived at the number 1 hall of Songqing Martial Arts Club, it was already crowded. There were fighters participating in the competition, relatives and friends cheering for them, and spectators who came specially to watch this kind of quasi-professional competition. After waiting in line for a few minutes, Lu Cheng received the group information and started to read it with Yenjika's head. Zhao Baosan, Putuo Martial Arts Club. Lu Xian, Bin branch of Songqing Police Station. They all seem to be quite strong. After browsing once, Lu Cheng said with a smile. There was no trace of embarrassment between his eyebrows. At another service desk in the number 1 hall, the strong and tough Zhao Baosan also received the group information. He read it carefully and his eyes suddenly froze. He blurted out, Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. Lu Xian, who had changed out of his police uniform, didn't hurry to read the group information. After wandering to a quiet place, he picked up the paper and glanced at it habitually. Lu Cheng, Songqing University Martial Arts Club, clatter. Lu Xian's fingers holding the edge of the paper became like iron hooks. Zhao Baosan practices 8 trigrams palm and crane shape on the side. Yenjika said in a clear and soft voice. Lu Cheng didn't dare to be careless, so he started to discuss with his girlfriend seriously. At this moment he heard his name on the radio. Lu Cheng of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, please come to the service desk. Lu Cheng and Yenjika looked at each other, both dumbfounded. Putting away their phones, they left their seats and went to the nearest service desk. Hello, I'm Lu Cheng of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. What can I do for you? Lu Cheng asked politely. The staff was a girl with a round face. She looked at Lu Cheng deeply and said, Your opponent in the morning match forfeited. Forfeited? Lu Cheng was stunned for a moment. Before he could answer, he heard the staff member continue. Your opponent in the afternoon and evening also forfeited. In the corner of the number 1 hall, Zhao Baosan covered his face with both hands and let out a long sigh. As a martial artist, it was really humiliating and depressing to surrender when facing a strong enemy without a fight, but after careful consideration, he felt that this was the best choice for him. Everyone had witnessed the strength of Lu Cheng from the Songqing University Martial Arts Club. They all knew that he was one of the best among the professional ninth pin fighters. It was widely acknowledged that he had already secured a place in the martial arts competition. If Lu Cheng were to face him as an amateur who had not yet entered the professional level, it was easy to imagine how low his chances of winning would be. In such a high-density and high-intensity competition, there was no point in fighting against such a strong opponent, who had almost no hope other than wasting time and energy. There was even the risk of minor injuries and residual effects. Since that was the case, it was best to strategically give up, save some energy, and fight for second place with the contestants behind him. That was the most rational and sensible decision. Almost at the same time, the fighters who received the group information all had the same idea. With Lu Cheng's abnormal physical strength, it didn't matter if he had gone through a tough battle or not. They might as well make a decision as early as possible and completely cut off their escape route, so that they could fight with their backs against the wall. Forfeit? It was hard for Lu Cheng to describe his current mood. Winning without a fight was definitely something to be happy about. However, he had come all the way here with great difficulty and had a serious discussion with his opponent. In the end, his opponent had given up on the spot, causing his fist, which he had clenched with all his strength, to miss. Did they forfeit all the matches or just my match? He asked subconsciously. He knew it was very common for fighters of professional ninth pin to forfeit in the ranking event, but it usually happened in the second week. Some fighters would get hurt because of the high-intensity fights, while some would lose more than 3 matches in the first week and feel hopeless, so they didn't bother to waste time coming here again. The staff said with a professional smile, "They only forfeited the match with you." Before her voice died away, she glanced at the new message that popped up on the computer screen in front of her. She was surprised and looked at Lu Cheng as if he was a monster. Your 3 matches tomorrow have also forfeited. What the hell is this? She had been working in the martial arts club for 3 years, but this was the first time she had encountered such a thing. Just the mention of a name could make a lot of fighters forfeit automatically. Yenjika listened with eager eyes and couldn't help but chuckle. Cheng, I suddenly remembered 2 sentences that I read before. What are they? Lu Cheng held back his disappointment and asked curiously. Make the enemy flee at the sight of you. And a certain name can stop children crying at night. Yenjika answered with a smile. Lu Cheng exhaled and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I think so. But I'm still not used to winning just like that. He paused and looked at the girl. Where are we going next? Yenjika answered solemnly. You're right. Back to the martial arts club for special training, of course. Ah. Lu Cheng was stunned. Yenjika burst into laughter. Since you don't want to go back, I'll invite you to a date. Anyway, I won't go to the hotel with you. You don't need to rest. Okay. Lu Cheng turned from being stunned to being happy, but he felt a little heartache because he had to pay for the rooms he booked. Why did those guys give up their rights for no reason? Although he was about to get 20,000 yuan, he still saved as much as he could, and was only generous to his girlfriend. After confirming the itinerary, he turned to the staff and asked, Can you inform me in advance if my opponent forfeits next week's match? He didn't want to waste another trip on Saturday. Although this could give him more time to date with Ke, he felt guilty that she always asked for leave and delayed her martial arts and learning. He didn't need Empress Dowager to pressure him. Sorry, we have no choice. We can only inform you if someone forfeits, right? The round-faced girl replied with grievance. Next week, although the number of forfeitures would increase, it didn't mean that Lu Cheng wouldn't have opponents willing to challenge him in the group stage. After all, at the final juncture, some people might be only 1 win away from qualifying, while others were hopeless and were willing to fight strong opponents to gain experience. Okay. Lu Cheng could only accept this reality helplessly. It was a reality that others yearned for. On a Saturday in the last week of April, Lu Cheng received the notice in advance that his opponents in the morning and evening had forfeited, so he went to the competition venue after the special training of the martial arts club. After waiting for nearly 2 hours, he spent more than a minute and easily defeated a challenger. The next morning, his opponent had already given up because of the injury in the previous match. After letting him do the same low-intensity training, he and Yenjika went to the #1 hall of Songqing Martial Arts Stadium to wait for the result of the draw. After one more match, he would be a certified professional 9th pin fighter. While waiting, they saw Chen Zhonghua, who couldn't hide his tiredness. "Are you okay?" Lu Qing asked. He had congratulated this teammate, who was about to become the former president, in the morning for winning the second place in the group. Chen Zhonghua exhaled and his expression was unprecedentedly solemn. "I have to bear with it. Besides, look at the others. Most of them are in the same condition as me. If their luck is not too bad, they won't waste the hard work of half a year." Sensing Chen Zhonghua's seriousness and expectation, Lu Qing didn't want to say anything more in case it would affect the mood of others. So he withdrew his gaze, held Yenjika's hand and looked at the big screen, waiting for the result of the draw. The draw in the afternoon was between 10 people, and those in the same group would avoid it. After a while, lines of matchups were displayed. Yenjika read Lu Cheng's part in a low voice. Lu Qing from Songqing University Martial Arts Club vs Pan Qingyan from Hongluo Martial Arts School. Pan Qingyan? Lu Qing smiled slightly, feeling that it was quite a coincidence. Lu Qing from Songqing University Martial Arts Club vs Pan Qingyan from Hongluo Martial Arts School. In the corner, Pan Qingyan looked at the matchup list and his face suddenly changed. He had tried so hard to win the group competition, but unexpectedly he met this guy. P.S. 2 chapters in 1, begging for monthly votes. Go home after today's meeting. Resume tomorrow. Also, Weixing Wuze 1985 is having a New Year's Day celebration. Chapter 191. Pan Qingyan? The one my brother defeated? Yenjika looked up and tried to recall who her boyfriend's opponent was. If Hongluo Martial Arts School was not mentioned, she would not remember anything related to it. After all, she was hiding in the locker room and applying ointment for Lu Qing, so she did not see the fight. She only heard that her cousin defeated the opponent in 2 moves. Lu Qing smiled and said, "It should be. Didn't we read the information of Hongluo Martial Arts School before the competition? I always remember that they have a main force called Pan something. It's probably him. Then he's improved really fast. He was just an ordinary amateur first pin when he competed with us. Now he's qualified in the group, and has the strength of a quasi-professional in less than 3 months." Yenjika said with some envy and some emotion. The actual combat training in the preliminaries has helped him a lot. It was a pity that she had only fought 5 matches for 3 times. Maybe his luck was better in the grouping? Lu Qing answered casually. He did not have any hope of advancing from the group in the preliminaries, so he did not care about the details of other matches. At most, he just glanced at the results. When Songqing University Martial Arts Club won consecutive victories, and was expected to win the first place in the group, their only opponent would be Azure Dragon Squad. Once they won, the results of other matches would be irrelevant. In this case, Lu Qing did not have time and energy to pay attention to the matches of Hongluo Squad. He would rather care about his girlfriend and put more effort into his studies. That's true. Yenjika nodded thoughtfully and then deliberately put on a serious face. But you can't be careless. There is still more than an hour. You have to look for his combat videos in the preliminaries. Do you understand? Yes. Coach Yen is right. Lu Qing answered with a smile. Holding the girl's hand, he found a high place in the stands and looked for Pan Qingyan's combat videos separately with her. Did he need to search for Lu Cheng's information? Every match during the preliminaries was deeply engraved in his mind. He had mastered the tremor punch and the ice sect 4 step by step. He had witnessed the whole process from the combat strength of professional 9th pin to the top of professional 9th pin. How could he win against such an opponent? How could he win against such an opponent? If it was at the beginning of the preliminaries, Pan Qingyan believed that it was possible for him to win if he had a good understanding of his opponent. But now he had no confidence at all. It was like facing a professional 8th pin expert in the dance stage. He could only pin his hope on the opponent's carelessness and underestimation, or that there would be an accident before the competition, and he would not perform well on the spot. Thanks to senior brother Zhang's injury, she had been tested in the preliminaries and had grown a lot. If she hadn't met an old enemy in the group stage and been restrained by her fighting style, she would have definitely been able to win the first place. However, compared to Lu Cheng's progress, her improvement was simply incomparable. I don't have any way to weaken his ice sect force. I can only rely on my physical fitness to resist it. Even if I face Tremor Punch, I won't be able to take more than 2 or 3 hits. Pan Qingyan exhaled and returned to normal. Since he had come this far, he could not give up the professional 9th pin certificate that was so close at hand. Especially last year, many competitions were held in Songqing and its surrounding areas, which allowed many fighters to pass the examination. As a result, there were 15 places for fighters of professional 9th pin. For those with strength, this was a rare opportunity. It should be noted that if there were extreme situations, such as the martial arts school's ability fighters who had already obtained the certificate, and the previous year's competition organization was not enough, there would only be a few places for the professional 9th pin ranking event. In the past few decades of ranking events, the most extreme situation in Songqing was when only 20 fighters passed the examination to compete for 2 places. Many fighters with professional strength could only fight against each other head-on. I can only fight with a wandering battle instead of an explosive collision. Pan Qingyan made the final decision. This was a fighting style that he was not good at, but it was also a choice that he had to make. Hey, he has been a professional for a long time. Yenjika exclaimed in a low voice while watching. Then she turned her head to look at Lu Cheng. She was holding a tablet, and beside her was a mobile Wi-Fi specially bought for such occasions. Lu Cheng touched the stubble on his chin and said amusedly, "He hid his strength really well. Was it because he was caught off guard by your brother's meteor force? If it were before, he would have been on guard when he knew Pan Qingyan's real strength. But now, it didn't matter whether he was a professional or not." Maybe. Yenjika rolled her eyes and suddenly burst into a smile. She said with a laugh, "Pan Qingyan might have wanted to catch my brother off guard, but he lost before he could do anything. He must have felt very depressed and wronged." Using the word wronged, she suddenly felt that the poor Pan Qingyan was a little cute. Lu Cheng said with a smile, "No matter how wronged he is, I have to fight seriously." While talking, he fast-forwarded the competition video and fixed the scene on the screen. "What are you looking at?" Yenjika craned her neck, leaned over and asked curiously. Lu Cheng said with a smile, "Didn't you just say that when facing me, Pan Qingyan is most likely to choose to move around and fight? Of course, I have to study his habitual dodging direction." This was the problem of habit that his master had mentioned. Just like how he habitually chose the left side in his daily life, if he still had such a habit in battle and was discovered by others, it would be easy for him to be targeted and set up a trap, thus falling into a dangerous situation. Fortunately, his master had pointed this out when he had little actual combat experience and hadn't formed a habit yet. Habit. Yenjika's lips slightly opened, and she suddenly understood. She looked at Lu Cheng's side face, and clearly felt her boyfriend's talent in fighting again. "I also have to pay attention to my own habits." She opened her eyes wide and looked at Lu Cheng's phone screen. "Did you find anything?" "Of course," Lu Cheng said with a little complacency. When given the choice, Pan Qingyan dodged to the right at least 8 times out of 10. Yenjika suddenly called out in a crisp voice. Lu Cheng looked at her sideways and said blankly, "What? You are so awesome." Yenjika clapped her hands and smiled like a flower. "Hey, don't be so exaggerated." Lu Cheng burst out laughing. Yenjika showed her dimples and smiled. "I learned from you." At 3:30 in the afternoon, Lu Cheng stepped into the arena and stood on both sides of the referee with Pan Qingyan. "To be honest, I didn't expect you to be a professional." He sighed with emotion. Hearing this, Pan Qingyan almost burst into tears. "You only know this now." He took a breath and kept his cold and fierce face. "I also didn't expect to meet you directly. Does God want me to continue to be an amateur first-pin fighter?" Lu Cheng didn't provoke him anymore. He closed his eyes and finally adjusted his body state. After a while, the referee looked at the electronic clock, raised his right hand and waved it down heavily. "Start." Lu Cheng exerted strength in his legs and suddenly straightened his bent knees. He rushed out like a gust of wind and shortened the distance between him and his opponent in the blink of an eye. Pan Qingyun was as calm as water. He moved his back muscles and made a sliding step to the right to avoid a head-on collision with his opponent. But at the same time, Lu Cheng's spine suddenly bounced like a dragon, turning its body and swinging its center of gravity to the left. He even changed direction before his opponent. In an instant, Pan Qingyun was walking into a trap. He saw Lu Cheng stomping his feet violently and swinging his waist and back violently. His fist was about to hit. "Damn it," Pan Qingyun murmured. He could only clench his teeth and make a visualization. He clamped his hip muscles and stimulated his tailbone to spring. He suddenly rushed to the side as if his body was on fire. Lu Cheng didn't show any mercy. He stomped his feet and broke the black bricks. He followed Pan Qingyun and rushed forward. Pan Qingyun had just landed on the ground when he sensed that his opponent was nearby. He had to lower his center of gravity and bounce back. He bulged his muscles and completed the first outbreak of the fire-like invasion. He suddenly turned around and fiercely poked back with his right arm like a big spear. Lu Cheng's fist, which had been accumulating power for a long time, suddenly hit out. In his mind was a frozen river, and in his body, cold waves were surging with torrential momentum. Bang! When the two fists collided, Lu Cheng's body shook. Pan Qingyun felt the coldness spread from his arm to his whole body and froze his muscles and fascia. His face immediately turned blue and his body trembled involuntarily. When he wanted to summon up his remaining strength to avoid his opponent's continuous attacks, the strength of his legs was obviously slowed down. Lu Cheng's arm shook, and his fist stopped at Pan Qingyun's throat. Then he heard the referee's announcement. Lu Cheng wins. Pan Qingyun shivered. He suddenly remembered that when he fought with Lin Ke, he was also defeated in 2 moves. He had worked hard for more than 2 months. Why was it still 2 moves? This was an expected victory. Lu Cheng didn't feel too ecstatic. He was full of ease and celebrated with Yan Zhike in the air. Then he nodded to Pan Qingyun and turned around to leave the stand. He didn't say anything because he felt that saying anything would hurt this friend of his. He really dodged to the right. Yan Zhike looked at Pan Qingyun sympathetically, and then forgot about him. She hugged Lu Cheng and celebrated with her bright eyes. Lu Cheng got the form from the competition supervisor and said half-jokingly, maybe his master didn't remind him of this. Holding hands, they walked to the office of the Martial Arts Association excitedly without looking back at the ring. The staff took the form and found the corresponding video. After confirming the final result, he smiled and said, "Hello Lu Cheng. As a professional 9th pin fighter, you automatically become a member of the Martial Arts Association. Do you want to withdraw?" No. Lu Cheng was not a fool. The staff read the terms and conditions. As an official member of the Martial Arts Association, you have to pay a membership fee of 1,000 yuan per year. The association will organize lectures for high-ranked fighters from time to time. We will also help you solve problems, such as coordinating legal resources. In short, you will get a lot of services. As for your obligations, first, you have to protect the reputation of the association. Second, you have to cooperate with the association when there are not enough referees in high-density competitions. Of course, we will give you a certain amount of remuneration or contribution points of the same value, which can be exchanged for martial arts-related materials collected by the association, including but not limited to unique martial arts. Do you have any questions? No. Lu Cheng shook his head. After hearing what the staff said, he really felt that he was a professional 9th pin fighter. Chapter 192. After paying the membership fee and taking the photo, Lu Cheng successfully received the certificate of professional 9th pin. His rank could be checked on the official website by his name and number. Why do I look so stupid? He looked at the photo on the certificate with dissatisfaction. Not a single one of his identification photos was presentable. Yan Zhike smiled and said in a light tone, "This is called seeking truth from facts." Without giving Lu Cheng a chance to speak, she took out her phone and said excitedly, "Stand still. I'll take a photo for you as a souvenir. From today on, you're a professional fighter. From today on, I'm a professional fighter." Lu Cheng's heart was suddenly stirred by this sentence. From today on, even if I drop out of college, even if my dad loses his job again, even if my family changes, I'm still a man who can shoulder the burden of life. He didn't know why, but he suddenly felt himself become solemn. He saw Yenjika step back and imitate the professional posture cutely to include himself in the camera. 1, 2, 3. The girl shouted in a clear voice. Click. Lu Cheng's serious face as he held the professional 9th pin certificate was fixed in the flash. He silently said in his heart, I am a fighter of professional 9th pin, but this is not enough. If I want to shoulder Ka's life and make her live a better life, the state of Danqi is the most basic. Professional 8th pin is the most basic. Among the tens of millions of people in Songqing, including the police department, martial arts schools, martial arts clubs, professional clubs, medical and security companies closely related to martial arts, there were no more than 70 or 80 mighty ones of Dan stage, including the old and the young. Those who could enter this category were definitely the elites of the elites. There were 2 ways to obtain the certificate of professional 8th pin. One was to form a big Dan and generate qi from the body. As long as a fighter entered the state of Danqi, he could get the certificate directly after verification. The other way was to submit the information of the fighter, who had defeated an 8th pin master, and be promoted through the ranking event. This kind of case was rare, but not rare because of the existence of supernatural abilities. Therefore, Songqing might have 7 or 8 newly advanced rank, 8 martial artists in a year, or maybe none at all. On average, there were about 4 martial artists per year. Some of them came from martial arts schools and entered the military, not staying in the city. Some of them went to cities like the capital, Huahai, or the Shangqing sect, Daxing Temple, and other sections. They would come into contact with martial artists of the same level, or even higher ranks to hone themselves and pursue higher and further martial arts goals. Lu Cheng's current goal was to join their ranks. This was the only way he could face the Empress Dowager and the others with confidence. One more. Cheng, don't be so serious. Smile. Yenjika seemed to be happier than when she got the certificate herself. Looking at her, the corners of Lu Cheng's mouth curled up. His solemn mood quickly faded away, and his mood became cheerful again. Next up was the long-awaited May 1st trip. At the beginning of April, his travel guide had been approved by Yenjika. In just a few days, it was April 30th. Gizershire did not disappoint and gave the special training trainees a holiday, allowing them to tidy up their tired mood after a long period of perseverance. They were ready for the bonus distribution and the draw results of the knockout round after the holiday. After the last class in the afternoon, Lu Cheng had a quick dinner with Yenjika and went back to the dormitory. He checked his luggage again to make sure he didn't forget anything. Carrying his luggage, he came to the door of the 3rd dormitory. Not long after, he saw the girl walking out of the door of the unit, dragging an orange 17-inch suitcase. At this time, Yenjika had changed her clothes. She was wearing a white t-shirt, light-colored jeans, a light green knitted sweater, and white sneakers. Simple but beautiful, full of vitality. Lu Cheng was not stingy with his loving eyes. He took the suitcase from the girl, held her hand, and said in high spirits, "Let's go." Yenjika covered her mouth and smiled, turning her head away. "I don't want to talk to this pompous guy." They didn't go to the bus station. Because of the holiday, there was a long line. Without waiting for more than half an hour, they couldn't get on the bus. Of course, Lu Cheng wouldn't let such a beautiful trip be overshadowed. He had already booked a car through the software. He didn't care about the extra money. When they went out of the school gate, the car was already waiting for them. Lu Cheng hurriedly put down their luggage and sat beside Yenjika. Just as he closed the door, he suddenly heard his phone ring. He picked it up and saw it was a call from Jiang Fei. "Fatty Jiang?" He picked up the phone in confusion. Jiang Fei's familiar voice came from the phone. "Cheng, I'm coming to you." "Ah." Lu Cheng was confused. Yenjika also looked over curiously. "Isn't it the May Day holiday? I don't want to stay in the dormitory and play games all the time, so I want to come to you and play in Songqing for a couple of days," Jiang Fei said excitedly. Lu Cheng looked at Yenjika, who was at a loss, and laughed. "Fatty Jiang, can't you tell me this a few weeks in advance? I'm not in Songqing now. Of course, even if you told me in advance, I wouldn't stay in Songcheng. This was really typical of Fatty Jiang. He would do whatever he wanted to do. Damn, Qing, are you still my brother? Jiang Fei was annoyed and amused. Shouldn't you turn back immediately after receiving my call? I say, where are you going? Sure. Yenjika nodded with a smile. Come to me after you put your luggage down. The earlier you eat, the earlier you can go to bed. You have to get up early to train tomorrow. Okay. Lu Qing answered happily. After finding the room, putting away his backpack and taking care of his personal matters, he returned to the girl's door and knocked on it. After a few knocks, Yenjika opened the door. Her complexion was worse than before. There was a hint of pain in her expression. What's wrong? Lu Qing asked anxiously. Just then he had a flash of inspiration. He pointed to his belly and said, Is that thing coming? Yes. Yenjika nodded, frowning. Lu Qing hurriedly said, Wait for me. I need to get something. After that, he hurried back to his room, rummaged through several bags, and returned to the girl's room. What's this? Yenjika asked curiously with one hand covering her belly. Lu Qing hurriedly washed the electric kettle and said with a smile, Brown sugar ginger tea. I specially prepared it for you. Yenjika was stunned and said in surprise, You know that I'm going to have my period. That's right. Isn't that obvious? Your period came on Valentine's Day on February 14th. It's a 26-day cycle. Shouldn't it come on March 12th, April 7th, and May 3rd? But your period came 2 days earlier in April. Most of the time it will come on these 2 or 3 days this month. So I didn't arrange anything like drifting. Lu Qing said with a look of, Why do you think I don't know? His hands were not slow. He had already started to boil the water. Then he said with a self-deprecating smile, I was worried that you wouldn't want to travel because of your period. Yenjika looked at him busying himself in an orderly manner, and listened to his seemingly matter-of-fact words. Her eyes suddenly turned a little red. She gritted her teeth and said, Actually, I agreed because I'm on my period. Lu Qing, who was washing the cup, was stunned. He turned to look at the girl, and said with some inexplicable grievance, You're afraid that I'll be beastly when traveling? Am I so untrustworthy? Yenjika bit her lower lip and nodded seriously. I'm afraid. Speaking of this, she suddenly became a little emotional. It's mainly because in these months, every time we were alone, you were so lustful. I always felt that you were just using me as a tool to vent your desire. After that, she exhaled as if she had finally vented all the negative feelings that had accumulated in the bottom of her heart. Chapter 193. While washing the cups, Lu Qing was waiting for his girlfriend to be moved by his thoughtfulness. He didn't expect to be greeted with such words. For a moment he was confused, wronged, and a little confused. If I were to use you as a tool to vent, then why do I have to endure so much pain every time? If I were to use you as a tool to vent, then why do I have to test your attitude every time before I dare to take a step further? He turned his head and saw the complicated emotions in the girl's eyes. Then he took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down so that his explanation wouldn't turn into a dispute. How could I use you as that kind of tool? Don't I dare to continue every time only when you don't object? If you don't like it, you can tell me. You can just show it. I can definitely hold it in and won't force you. When he said the last sentence, he felt that he couldn't control his emotions and was a little agitated, so he kept repeating the words calm down and communicate. Yenjika seemed to have calmed down and wasn't as agitated as before. Her nose was a little blocked, and she said anxiously, That's not what I mean. I mean every time we are alone, you act like your mind is full of that kind of thing. You act like you're always thinking about that kind of thing. You act like you're always thinking about that kind of thing. You act like you're always thinking about that kind of thing when we're alone. Her words were a little messy, but she didn't look away. She looked straight at Lu Qing, pursed her lips and said, Sometimes I'm not very willing, but I feel that you like it very much. I'm afraid that you'll be disappointed and unhappy, so I still cooperate with you. Speaking of this, she paused and sniffed. Her eyes became a little redder. To be honest, Lu Qing felt a little disappointed and hurt in his heart. But when he heard Yenjika's words, he felt her grievance, her tolerance, and her concession. Immediately, most of the emotions in his heart dissipated. He seriously examined his performance during this time. It seemed probably that he always unconsciously let the two of them be filled with hormones when they were alone. He exhaled the turbid breath just now and said, "You mean you don't like it every time? You mean I act like I'm only thinking about that kind of thing? You hope that we can do something else when we are alone? If you don't like it, you must show it. Although I'm more attentive in other aspects, I'm not that sensitive in this kind of thing. If you don't say it or don't object, I'll think that you like it very much." As he said this, he felt a little funny and a little bit sentimental because he remembered a sentence by Little Ming. Sometimes a girl's willing is liking, and sometimes not liking, but sometimes their willingness doesn't necessarily mean they don't like it. Yes, not. It. 2. Take it slow. Wait for me. Take it slow. Wait for me. Seeing Yenjika like this and hearing her words, Lu Cheng's remaining emotions completely disappeared. He pursed his lips and promised seriously, "I'll control myself. I'll wait for you." While the electric kettle was turning on, he put down the cup and took a step forward. He took Yenjika's hand and pulled her into his arms. He didn't kiss her, but just wanted to hold her quietly. Yenjika hugged his back and buried her face in his shoulder. After a while she said softly, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. When I was at the ranking event, I was actually very touched and happy to see that you could endure for me. However, you always acted like you were thinking about that kind of thing, which made me a little confused. I thought that since I was on my period, I could take the opportunity to see your reaction. I wanted to see if you were disappointed, depressed, indifferent, or something else. In the end, you already knew and didn't feel disappointed at all. You even tried your best to take care of me and even prepared ginger tea. I feel a little guilty. I feel that I misunderstood you, so I plucked up the courage to tell you my thoughts and communicate with you. Don't let these things hurt our relationship bit by bit." She raised her head. She was a little embarrassed and couldn't bring herself to say it, but she still pursed her lips and looked at Lu Cheng earnestly. "Cheng, I'm sorry. What I said at the beginning was a little harsh. No, it's not what I really think. It's just that I've thought about a few expressions just now, but I felt that they were either too tactful or too coquettish. I couldn't let you know my attitude clearly. I was afraid that you wouldn't take it seriously, so I said those words. You don't need to apologize between us." Lu Cheng stroked her hair and thought for a while. "At first, I felt a little hurt and couldn't believe that you actually thought of me like this. But after hearing your grievance and concession, I felt that it was nothing. And it was a girl's period. It was completely understandable." Yenjika's beautiful eyebrows relaxed and finally showed a faint smile. She lowered her head and buried it in Lu Cheng's shoulder. She said in a low voice, "It's nothing. Two people can't only give and endure one-sided. I can feel your heart, so I want to do the same. Next time when you don't like it, you must express it. I'm very stupid. I'm afraid that I'll misunderstand your meaning. Now I don't even know when to kiss and when not to kiss," Lu Cheng said with some distress. Yenjika's pretty face pressed on his shoulder. She laughed in a muffled voice. "Idiot. Atmosphere. Feeling. Do you understand?" "I don't understand. What do you mean by atmosphere right? What do you mean by feeling right? You don't have any quantitative standards." Lu Cheng was sweating. When he was about to say something more, he heard the sound of the electric kettle turning on and off. He let go of her and waited for the boiling sound to stop. Then he heated the cup again with boiling water. Then he tore open the packaging and put in the brown sugar ginger tea. Finally, he ran the supernatural ability of frost to reduce the temperature to a level where it would not burn his tongue. The housekeeping supernatural ability was really good. Yenjika stood beside him, quietly watching him busying himself. Her eyes were sparkling and the corners of her mouth curved into a smile that seemed to be both happy and warm. "It's done." Lu Cheng passed the cup to her. Yenjika took it with both hands and sat on the edge of the bed. She closed her eyes and took a deep sip. Then she smiled and said, "I've always heard about this kind of tea, but I don't like the taste of ginger. So every time I put it in the shopping cart, I didn't buy it. Ah, did I pick the wrong one? Lu Qing asked with some annoyance. Usually when they were eating, he would pay attention to the girl's habits. When he found that she didn't reject the ginger in the dishes and soup, he thought that she would accept the ginger tea. But this kind of thing couldn't be asked directly. That would be the end of the surprise. Yenjika smiled and took another sip from the cup. Her cheeks were rosy because of the heat. She looked to the side and said calmly, "You're right. Now I like it. I like the boy who cares about my period. I like his carefulness when he's busy. I like the way he tolerates my stubbornness and willfulness. That's good." Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief and sat beside Yenjika. He thought for a while and said, I need to talk to you about two things." "What is it?" Yenjika blinked and looked at him. Her eyes were still a little red. Lu Qing chose his words carefully and said, "You said that my reaction was too big and scared you. But this is my instinct. I can't control it even if I want to. You're so beautiful and so tempting in my heart. I'm full of vigor and I like you so much. Even if I don't think about dirty things in my mind, I can't help but have a reaction most of the time. It's not that I want to do whatever I want. It's not that I only want to take advantage of you. I hope you can understand." "Really?" Yenjika bit her lips and looked a little curious. Lu Qing said sincerely, "Really? You can ask your best friends." "Okay." Yenjika nodded thoughtfully. "What's the second thing?" Lu Qing smiled and said, "In fact, even if your period didn't come, I think I can still control it at the last moment. First, I don't think I have the ability to shoulder your future. Besides, I promised Empress Dowager. I always feel that her eyes are watching me from afar. It's quite stressful. Second, I fear suspicion and lack of confidence the most in a long-distance relationship. I want to show you that even in front of the girl I love, I can still control it if no one stops me. Not to mention those flirtatious bitches out there. I hope I can give you confidence in this way so that our relationship can go on forever. Do you think I'm thinking too far ahead and seem a little silly?" Yenjika couldn't help but laugh. She rolled her eyes and said, "Of course not. I like this silly look of yours. I like that you think too far ahead for our future." She held the cup and slowly finished the brown sugar ginger tea. She exhaled and said, "I feel much better. Do you still want to go out for supper?" Lu Qing asked. Yenjika pressed her belly with her right hand, and thought for a while. "Let me relax a little more." Speaking of this, she pursed her lips and turned her head to the side. Blushing, she hummed and said, "You made me very emotional today. Rub my belly as punishment." "Okay." Lu Qing was pleasantly surprised. Yenjika took off her shoes and curled up with her back to Lu Qing. Her black hair covered the white pillow. Lu Qing gestured to her, and carefully lay on his side behind her. His left hand went around her waist and reached for her belly. At this moment, Yenjika hummed in a low voice, "You're pressing on my hair." "Ah." Lu Qing hurriedly raised his upper body and let her gather her hair. Then he dared to lie down. His left hand touched Yenjika's belly through the t-shirt. After rubbing for a while, Yenjika suddenly said softly, "You can reach in and rub. Your hand is hot." Lu Qing looked at her in surprise. He saw that she was still lying on her side and didn't turn around. Her black hair was like a waterfall and her ears were bright red. Taking a breath, he carefully opened the t-shirt and put his hand in. But the first thing he touched was the feeling of a piece of paper. "What's this?" he asked subconsciously. Yenjika was embarrassed and annoyed. "Sanitary pads." "Ah." Lu Qing was confused. He had only heard of sanitary pads. It's the upgraded version of sanitary pads. You don't have to worry about leakage." Yenjika explained shyly. "Oh, sanitary pads in the shape of pants." Lu Qing suddenly understood. He put his hand in a little and touched her belly. Then he began to rub it carefully. Lu Qing couldn't help but have a little reaction. But soon he restrained himself and stopped thinking about it. He recalled what had happened before, and thought about what the girl had said. Usually, Yenjika was a beautiful and gentle girl. She was gentle on the outside but delicate on the inside. She was mature and cute at the same time. But was this the complete her? No, just now she had her own opinion, bottom line, courage and persistence. No wonder Empress Dowager said she was stubborn in her bones. And she could think about what kind of words were more appropriate. She would choose the former between effect and tone. Compared to other girls who were tactful and reserved, she could speak frankly and fearlessly when necessary. No wonder she had rejected so many boys, but didn't have any scandals. She didn't have too many pestering pursuers. Ah, I'm still too immature. Fortunately, Yenjika is willing to communicate with me instead of keeping it in her heart. It would be troublesome if a small problem became a big problem. While rubbing, he heard Yenjika's breath become long and steady. He looked up and found that the girl had fallen into a deep sleep. The torment of menstruation and emotional turmoil made her physically and mentally exhausted. Lu Qing looked at her quietly without any thoughts. In this quiet and warm atmosphere, he also felt a little sleepy and wanted to synchronize his breath with Yenjika's. Sleep for half an hour. He rubbed and unconsciously closed his eyes. When he woke up abruptly and looked at his phone, it was almost 1 o'clock. So he forcibly pulled himself out of the warm and fragrant quilt, carefully got off the bed and covered the girl's legs with the quilt again. During this process, he hesitated for a while whether to help Yenjika take off her pants. But he was afraid of being misunderstood, so he restrained himself. He turned off the light and tiptoed to the door. What time is it? Suddenly, Yenjika, who had lost the warmth on her back, asked in a daze. Lu Qing stopped and turned back. It's almost 1 o'clock. Yenjika turned on the bedside lamp and struggled to get up. She sleepily walked to the suitcase and took out a set of pajamas and a bag of things. When she passed by Lu Qing and entered the bathroom, she lowered her head and said in a low voice, "You can sleep here tonight. You can't sleep if you keep going back and forth. And you can continue to rub my belly." "Yes, rub your belly." Lu Qing looked at her in surprise and saw the girl's face as red as blood. She closed the door of the bathroom with a bang. Sleep with her? Lu Qing was stunned and immediately felt a strong surge of joy. Although he couldn't do anything, he always felt that it was very good. Yenjika changed into her underwear, washed her face and brushed her teeth. She walked out of the bathroom and didn't dare to look at Lu Qing. "Go wash up. It stinks." Lu Qing laughed and cleaned himself up after a while. When he returned to the room, Yenjika was lying on her side again with her back to him. Her body was completely buried in the quilt. Her black hair was like a cloud, setting off her small oval face. Under the dim bedside lamp, everything was so warm. Lu Qing held his breath and came to the bedside. He hesitated for a while whether to take off his pants. But in the end, he carefully took them off, pulled the quilt and got in. A burst of fragrance hit him. He took a breath and lay down cautiously. Then he heard the girl moan again. "You are pressing on my hair." This. Lu Qing was confused. Why does this always happen? In the future, when we vote for the most words between a man and a woman lying on the bed, if the woman has long hair, I will definitely choose, "You are pressing on my hair." He raised his upper body again and tucked Yenjika's hair back. Then he turned off the bedside lamp and lay on his side. He put his left hand around her waist and stretched it to the same place, continuing to massage. Under the quilt, the girl's thin pajamas assaulted him. Lu Qing couldn't help but have a reaction again. I will hold it back. It's instinct." Lu Qing felt the girl's body stiffen and hurriedly explained. Yenjika didn't turn around and said in the quilt, "I believe you. I believe you." Hearing these 4 words, Lu Qing suddenly felt that his previous efforts were worth it. His eyes became hot and he massaged more carefully. The two of them chatted casually. Soon, Yenjika fell asleep again. Lu Qing concealed his spirit and qi and fell into a deep sleep soon after. At 5:30 in the morning he woke up naturally. He saw the dim light from outside and saw the soft body in his arms and the sweet fragrance. It was an indescribably beautiful picture. He resisted the throbbing and struggled to leave the bed of warmth. He didn't want to wake the girl up, so he planned to go back to his room to wash up. At this moment, Yenjika felt his departure and turned around subconsciously. However, she didn't catch him. She opened her eyes in a daze and said slowly, "You are up." "Yes." Lu Qing knelt on the bed, lowered his head and gently kissed her lips. Yenjika raised her hands and put them around his neck. She muttered, "I haven't brushed my teeth yet." Hearing this, Luqing laughed secretly. He lowered his head again and kissed her deeply without any lust. After the kiss, Yenjika withdrew her hands and looked at him coquettishly and lazily. "Remember to buy me breakfast when you come back." "Okay." Luqing agreed with a smile. He put on his clothes and left the room with light steps. Walking in the dim corridor, he felt unusually satisfied and warm. There was an indescribable happiness. The scene just now seemed to be a scene he had dreamed of for a long time. After marriage every morning. Chapter 194. Back in his room, Luqing put on the navy blue Longhu Club martial arts suit and put in his cell phone and room card. When he was about to go out, he turned around and walked to the bed. He took out his wallet, took out 2 $100 notes, and put them together with the room card. Although it was convenient to pay by mobile phone, and sometimes it didn't matter if he didn't carry money, he was traveling and didn't know what was going on. It was better to carry some money in case of an accident. When he went downstairs, the fresh and refreshing air came into his nose. Luqing took 2 deep breaths and felt comfortable both physically and mentally. He identified the direction in the morning mist and jogged slowly to the road on the right according to the map he had read before. After passing through 2 streets, he arrived at a temporarily empty and quiet square. He found a corner and got into a stance to practice pole standing. Starting from yin and yang, he focused on the inner practice of thunder roar zen. He visualized the thunder cloud in his mind, which affected the muscles in his abdomen and brought out a rhythmic low rumble of thunder from his throat. The muscles all over his body followed the rhythm, sometimes tightening, sometimes exploding, creating a slight vibration inside to temper his bones, marrow, blood and organs. Compared to the time when he faced Mo Zitsong's elephant trumpet, his bone marrow was condensed and his blood was running like a big river with vigorous vitality, washing and polishing every part of his body. Thump, thump, thump. Luqing slightly controlled his heartbeat, making it sometimes intense and sometimes slow, so as to influence other viscera. Combined with the thunder vibration, they completed the wriggling together. This was the sign that his martial arts had been practiced into his bones, and was about to be practiced into his body. At that time, he would reach the peak of body refining and be able to integrate his internal and external forces into one. He would be able to control the muscles and bones that he couldn't control in the past, and do all kinds of things that ordinary people found inconceivable. For example, when he reached the Danchi stage, he could cover his ears by himself. He had been training like this for nearly 50 minutes. The bright moon in the sky finally disappeared, and the morning sun shone down, illuminating the darkness and dispelling the thin fog. At first, Luqing was the only one in the square, and all was quiet. Later, morning trainers of all ages and ages started to appear one after another. The low rumbling sound of thunder came from Luqing's body, attracting the attention of all the men and women who passed by him. Those who were more experienced changed their expressions slightly, their eyes filled with awe and yearning. Prolonged training was harmful to the body. The sound of blood flowing in Luqing's body gradually slowed down. His wriggling abdomen also gradually stopped. In the beginning, he could only train for 20 minutes. Now he could train for 48 minutes. It was enough to show the improvement of his body and the strengthening of his bone marrow, blood, and organs. Opening his eyes, he slowly began to practice the training routines, from 24 blizzard strikes to big and small hand wrap, and then to Thunder Roar Zen, and mainly allocated his time to the latter. Thunder Roar Zen didn't seem to pose any difficulty to him after he started practicing it. But when he started practicing it, Luqing had new feelings and experiences every day. He had unearthed a lot of hidden meanings. Only recently did he feel that he had reached a higher level. However, he underestimated the difficulty of combining Thunder Roar Zen and Frost Force. After more than a month, he barely touched the threshold of the killing move Severe Warning. Luqing wasn't anxious about this. His body hadn't reached the peak of body refining, so he couldn't rush other things. Moreover, according to his master, Severe Warning was a simplified version of physical invulnerability moves, so it wasn't easy to master. After practicing one round, due to the limited environment and the crowd, He didn't practice his moves. Instead, he stood still and practiced Ice Mirror again. Combined with the inward vision brought by the Jindan, he tried again and again, but the result was no surprise. He failed shamefully every time. But during this process, his eyes, ears, mouth, nose, soul, spirit, and other senses were gradually transforming. At 7:40, he exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, put away his stance, wiped his sweat, and walked back along the road where the street lights were out. He felt full of spirit and vigorous qi and blood, with an inexplicable certainty. His relationship with Yenjika, from the beginning to the end, was too beautiful to be real. It always made him feel insecure, like it was a dream, and when he woke up, everything would be gone. But after the emotional communication last night, he realized that a lot of the beautiful things were exchanged for by Yenjika's obedience, compromise, and tolerance. If it continued without him noticing it, and his behavior didn't change much, it was very likely to develop from quantitative change to qualitative change, and become the source of quarrels, contradictions, and even breakup. K's words last night were a little hurtful, but because of this, he remembered it clearly. Every time he thought of it, his heart would tighten and he would shiver. The false veil of pure beauty was removed, and the differences in ideas, thoughts, and habits between a man and a woman began to show. They started to get along, but Luqing didn't feel regret. Instead, he felt more grounded because this way, they would last for a long time. His little fairy was floating in the sky, and one day he would be unable to touch her. When she turned back to Yenjika and fell to the ground, she would be the girl he could live with. If he didn't care about her, if he didn't think about the future, he wouldn't have said that out loud. Luqing walked forward confidently. The insecurity he felt in the past when he was always afraid of losing Yenjika was made up a lot. After walking for a few minutes, he saw rows of breakfast stalls in front of the community. They were steaming and giving off the smell of life. What should I eat? What should I buy for Ku? Luqing looked around, and chose a noodle stall first. After a few glances, he ordered a bowl of noodles with zhajiang sauce and a bowl of braised beef noodles. The stall owner had seen a lot of customers with a big appetite. He didn't ask if Luqing was alone or with two people. After a shout, he picked up enough noodles and put them into a big iron pot. While waiting, Luqing found a table at random and sat next to it. Looking at the poor people who had to work overtime during the holidays, and watching them pick and choose at the breakfast stalls, he suddenly felt a little more relaxed. Not long after, 2 bowls of noodles were served. Luqing didn't eat in a hurry. He took a picture first and planned to send it to Yenjika later. He would ask her what she wanted to eat. If she didn't wake up or didn't know what to eat, he would make the decision himself. He ate in full swing. He felt that this stall had a lot of ingredients. The stewed beef was very soft, and the sauce was very fragrant. Except for the quality of the noodles, it was good. He finished the 2 bowls of noodles quickly. After asking the stall owner if he could pay with his mobile phone, he had to take out the cash. After that, he strolled around the breakfast stalls leisurely. Sometimes he would eat a bowl of wonton, and sometimes he would eat a tray of soup dumplings. This reminded him of the first few years of primary school and middle school when his father's company was close to bankruptcy. The uncles and aunties in the community lived a hard life. They either went out to work or set up stalls to make a living. Therefore, at that time, there were many breakfast stalls in the community and outside the school. Many of them were acquaintances. However, he didn't have a big appetite back then. He couldn't eat one stall after another like now. Wang Su, on the other hand, grew up early and had a strong body. He had to eat 3 or 4 stalls every day to be full. His family was even more poor than his own. Sometimes he would ask for credit, but he never said that he wouldn't pay back. Even after he entered the society, he didn't eat and drink for free. Because of this little bit of behavior, he always thought that his nature was not bad. When he was almost done, Luqing sent a picture of the food to Yenjika on QQ and recommended the breakfast that he identified as clean and good. After waiting for a few minutes, he didn't get a reply from Yenjika. He put away his phone and went back to a stall. He asked for a tray of soup dumplings and a bowl of braised beef noodles. Carrying 2 sets of food in his right hand, he quickened his pace in case it would be bad if it got cold. When he was about to turn the corner, he suddenly heard a panicked shout in front of him. Thief! Thief! Lu Cheng looked up and saw a girl in her 20s stumbling to catch up with a skinny young man. He pursed his lips and observed for a while. Then he took 2 steps to the left and happened to pass by the young man. Then he quietly stretched out his foot to the side. Thump! The young man tripped and immediately lost his center of gravity. He tried to stabilize himself with some kung fu, but it was too slow. In the end, he fell heavily on the ground and was chased a few steps away by the girl. He turned over and stood up. He took out a dagger from his waist and waved it a few times with a fierce look. Lu Cheng suddenly rushed to the front of the young man. He grabbed the dagger with his left hand and twisted it skillfully. The dagger fell to the ground with a clang. He leaned his body and controlled his strength to hit the young man. The young man almost stopped breathing and staggered to the ground again. The girl caught him and took back the phone from his pocket. Many people had come over, and the young man had lost his strength to fight back. Lu Cheng, who was anxious to send breakfast to his girlfriend, turned around and walked away. During the smooth movement just now, he kept his right hand steady and didn't let the soup spill. The girl saw that some people helped to hold down the young man. She hurriedly turned around and shouted to Lu Cheng's back. "Thank you. Don't go." She shouted and chased after him. It seemed that she wanted to thank him in person. Lu Cheng didn't turn around. Instead, he sped up. He waved his left hand and answered happily, "You're welcome. Please call me Red Scarf." The girl had been chasing the young man for a while and was exhausted. She had to stop and breathe heavily. Then she seized the time to take a picture of Lu Cheng's back with her phone. Click. She looked at Lu Cheng's shabby navy blue Longhu Club martial arts suit and the 2 boxes in his right hand. She exhaled and posted the picture on her WeChat Moments with the caption, "Super handsome and awesome delivery boy." When Lu Cheng was about to return to the hotel, he finally saw Yenjika's reply. She said with a pitiful face, "Cheng, where are you? Miss me?" Lu Cheng replied with a naughty smile. Yenjika sent a sad emoji biting her handkerchief and said, "Well, I feel a little scared when I wake up in a strange place. I miss you a little. Hey, I'm about to enter the elevator." This was the first time that Lu Cheng felt a girl's attachment. He was suddenly excited. After what happened last night, the relationship between Ku and I seemed to have improved. He came to Yenjika's door and knocked twice. Then the door opened with a squeak. Yenjika was wearing the light-colored pajamas with cartoon patterns from last night. She looked at Lu Cheng with a smile and said, "I feel like you bought me noodles, steamed buns and youtiao." "Except for the youtiao, everything is right." Lu Cheng immediately laughed and said, "Our hearts are in sync." Hey. Yenjika laughed and took the food. She sat at the table and started to eat. Lu Cheng stood beside her and admired her small but fast-eating manner. While glancing at her, he found that her eyes were slightly swollen. He blurted out, "Last night, I thought you would cry." Yenjika tapped her chin with her chopsticks and said while thinking, "I cry when I read novels and TV series. When I'm moved, I cry. When I'm really sad, wronged or painful, I won't cry. I'm very tolerant." "Humph, do you want me to cry?" "No, I'm just curious. I've never seen you cry since we met," Lu Cheng said with a smile. Yenjika picked up a steamed bun and put it near her mouth. She gave him a stare. After the girl finished breakfast, Lu Cheng planned to go back to his room to take a shower and change clothes before leaving for the mountain. He had just walked a few steps out of the door when he suddenly heard Yenjika call softly, "Cheng." Lu Cheng looked back and saw the girl leaning against the door with half of her head. She said with a blush, "I'm talking about getting along like last night." There was no taste of lust, only the closeness of heart to heart. "I like it too," Lu Cheng said with a sincere smile. At this time, he suddenly thought of Yenjika's words last night. Sometimes she is not very willing to be intimate. So sometimes, is she very willing to be intimate? Alas, a girl's mind is really hard to understand. They smiled at each other and went back to their rooms. Lu Cheng was about to take a shower when he heard his phone ring. He picked it up and saw that it was Casanova Little Ming. "Talker, why are you calling me so early in the morning instead of whispering sweet nothings to your girlfriend?" Lu Cheng said sarcastically. Kai Zhongming snorted and said, "When are you going back to Songcheng? My wife thinks that you are a very good friend. You have taken good care of me, helped me quit smoking, and more or less quit drinking. Now that I have a new goal and motivation, she wants to treat you to a meal and thank you." Yes, these are her original words. How can I think the same? I'm clearly the one who's teaching you. I'm the one who's acting as your emotional consultant and making you mature. Damn, you're quite at Sundara. Lu Qing almost burst out laughing, but he still said emotionally, "We are good friends, right? It is really a lucky thing to meet a good friend who can help each other." Kai Zhongming was silent for a while and said, "Cheng, did you hit your head? Are you possessed by someone's spirit? I don't think it's a problem if you insult me, call me a bitch, or ask me to get lost. But you suddenly call me good friend. My hair is standing up, okay?" Lu Qing felt like he was splashed with cold water. He could only twitch his mouth and said, "I have never seen a person who doesn't listen to good words and wants to be scolded." "Well, when are you going back to Songcheng?" Kai Zhongming laughed. Lu Qing answered honestly, "The afternoon of the 3rd. "Okay, I will set it at night. Anyway, her flight is on the morning of the 4th. If Yenjika is willing, she can come too. Then you will be more restrained. If you dare to speak ill of me, I will expose your embarrassing things." Kai Zhongming added fiercely, and hung up the phone. Lu Qing held the phone with a smile on his face. He was quite interested in this invitation. He was just curious and wanted to see what the girl who could make the Casanova surrender was like. Chapter 195. After a shower, Lu Qing changed into a white t-shirt, jeans and dark blue sneakers. He looked in the mirror and thought he was not handsome, but he was clean and energetic, warm and confident. There was also a vigorous and high-spirited aura between his eyebrows. The latter was the result of reaching the peak of body refining and the vigorous qi and blood to a certain extent. "I wonder if I'll wear matching outfits with Ke?" He brushed his hair and smiled to himself. He was about to go out, but after thinking for a while, he turned back and took out a thin jacket from his backpack. Although he was full of vigor and wasn't afraid of the temperature difference on the mountain, it was a burden to carry a jacket. However, Ke was in the middle of her period. She was weak and cold. When they reached the glass bridge, she might feel cold in the strong wind blowing through the canyon. At that time, this jacket would come in handy. Well, it's better to be prepared for anything. Knock, knock, knock. He knocked on the girl's door. It didn't take long for Yenjika to pull open the door. Wait for a while. She seemed to feel that this was against her principle of not letting people wait, so she added, "I don't look good. I have to do something to my face." It was her first trip with her boyfriend, so there must be something like taking photos. She couldn't be careless. "Okay." Lu Qing walked in with a smile and stood at the door of the bathroom. He watched her apply the cream on her face and found that her face was indeed pale because of blood loss. "What are you looking at? Go sit in the room." Yenjika said coquettishly, "I've never seen it before. I always feel that it's a very complicated and magical skill." Lu Qing said with a smile. He never paid attention to whether his mother would apply cream or not. Isn't that a little unfilial?" Yenjika pinned her hair to one side with a hairpin, which looked very cute. She glanced at her boyfriend and said, "I only know a little. Every time my mother taught me, I didn't pay much attention. It's hard to give up on a natural beauty." Lu Qing said half jokingly and half sincerely. Yenjika smiled and showed her dimples. She didn't say anything but felt a little proud. She seemed to feel that her boyfriend's praise came from the heart. Only then did Lu Qing notice that his girlfriend was also wearing a white t-shirt and jeans, but she was wearing white sneakers. The letters on her t-shirt had also changed from yesterday's letters to today's black pattern. "We're going to wear couple outfits," he said in surprise. This was exactly what he had expected. Was this what it meant to have a tacit understanding of each other? "I noticed it a long time ago. You didn't realize it until we opened the door." Yenjika replied in a light tone. She didn't want to continue the topic of matching outfits. "Didn't I care about your complexion first?" Lu Qing ridiculed, but said with a smile, "You deserve to be a detective. Your observation skills are really good." "Of course." Yenjika raised her chin. Now that he had a sense of security, Lucheng was less cautious and said whatever came to his mind. "Ku, you seem to have a lot of white t-shirts." They were all about the same. "Wouldn't it be too monotonous?" "Yes," Yenjika said casually. "Different styles, different patterns and different patterns. It's very complicated." Lucheng could only answer in this way. At this time, Yenjika's face was almost done. Her lips were pink and tender, which made her complexion look better. Lucheng wanted to kiss her, but he controlled himself with difficulty. "Complicated?" Yenjika turned her head and chuckled. "You'll know how complicated a girl's clothes are in the future. By the way, I read a post about this before. It said that the leggings, which are all the same in the eyes of boys, are actually divided into thick ones, thin ones, flannel ones, non-flannel ones, non-revealing ones, half-revealing ones, and combinations of them at will." Just thinking about it gave Lucheng a headache. But he liked Yenjika's, "I'll wait for you in the future." It sounded like they would be together forever. Yenjika pursed her lips and nodded solemnly. "That's it." Then she joked. "That's why I said that most of you boys live too coarse a life. Hello, coarse man." For a moment, Lucheng was speechless. After thinking about it carefully, it seemed to be true. He could only watch his girlfriend put on her coat, carry her backpack, and get ready to go out. "Cool, I got a call from Talker earlier. He said that his girlfriend is very grateful for the encouragement I gave her boyfriend. She wants to treat us to dinner on the 3rd of the month to thank me in person." Lucheng brought up the matter as they approached the elevator. Yenjika looked up and said, "Okay, I'm quite curious about what his girlfriend is like." Kai Zongming was a member of the martial arts special training team. She was no stranger to him. And her boyfriend often talked about this good friend of his, and told her all the embarrassing things about him. Of course, Lucheng would never mention that his girlfriend had been guided by Little Ming. This was a secret that he would never mention until both of them had white hair and reminisced about the past. Out of the door, they went to Yangtai Tourism Center and bought tickets. Then they took a special bus to Mount Mafeng. Along the road, they climbed step by step. Considering the existence of the girl's Aunt Flo, Lucheng slowed down his progress. They walked and stopped, took breaks and breathed in the air full of negative oxygen ions, enjoying the free time in an unfamiliar environment. It wasn't until it was almost noon that they saw the glass bridge that spanned across the canyon. There were not many tourists here, but there were also quite a few. They waited in line for more than 10 minutes before it was their turn to board. As a boy, Lucheng volunteered to take the lead and stepped on the bridge. He felt the emptiness under his feet. At first glance, he could see the swirling clouds, the rushing river, and the buildings at the foot of the mountain that were as small as ants because of the height. It made him want to jump down, but he was also afraid that he would fall and become a meat pie. "I didn't know I was a little afraid of heights until I came here," Lucheng complained to himself. He calmed down and condensed water into ice, calming down his fear and other feelings. Looking at the tourists around him who were trembling and didn't dare to move forward, and at the men and women who were holding on to the railings on both sides, he felt a little funny. He turned back and reached out his hand to Yenjika, wanting to pull her up and be ready to protect his girlfriend. Will Yenjika tremble and her legs go soft? Or will she scream and not dare to move? Lucheng thought with implicit expectation. Then it will be a chance to show his manliness. Yenjika tidied her hair that was blown by the mountain wind. She didn't grab Lucheng's right hand, and jumped lightly onto the glass bridge like a deer. Then she looked down with interest. She walked back and forth a few steps and looked at Lucheng with a little excitement. "It's very interesting." Lucheng was stunned and blurted out, "Yenjika, aren't you afraid?" "Not at all." Yenjika shook her head proudly, and then looked at the frightening scenery under her feet. She explained, "Maybe it's because I was very weak when I was young. I often got sick and always felt that I would die soon. Haha, at that time I was very fond of imagining things. After I got used to it, I felt that there was nothing to be afraid of about death. I often thought that if I died at the most brilliant time of my life, I would have no regrets." As she spoke, she put away her feelings and said with a smile, "If you're not even afraid of death, why would you be afraid of heights?" As soon as she finished speaking, she heard Lucheng say in a weak voice, "Coach Yen, you're right. So, can you give me a hand? Yenjika looked up and saw Luqing holding on to the railing beside him. His legs were weak and his body was trembling. No way. Chung is so afraid of heights. Yenjika resisted the urge to burst into laughter. When she was about to walk over and reach out her hand, she saw Luqing suddenly stand up straight and smile as usual. I'm kidding. Seeing Yenjika's fearless side, he felt that this girl was very cute and pitied her. He wanted to use this to dissolve the atmosphere just now. If it wasn't for traveling and being in a strange place, it would be a long time before he could see Yenjika like this. Of course, he was a little afraid of heights. Yenjika finally couldn't help laughing. She covered her mouth and laughed for a while. In the end, she felt relaxed and her eyes twinkled. Chung, in fact, I especially liked the scared look on your face when you were waiting for me to save you. This will give this hero a sense of accomplishment. Luqing hurriedly crossed his arms and pretended to be a good man who was being teased. He shivered and said, Then come and save me quickly. Yenjika laughed so hard that she crouched down with her hands on her belly, so as not to lose her image. After a cheerful flirting, they walked to the center of the glass bridge and asked a kind passerby to take some photos of each other cuddling in the blue sky and white clouds. Snap. This was the first time they took a photo together alone. In the afternoon, Luqing had no choice but to follow the strategy he had prepared and choose a scenic restaurant that wasn't so bad. After lunch, the two of them held hands and embarked on their journey again in a happy and relaxed mood. They went to the temple to burn incense and visited other people's settlements in the mountains. Although they didn't see anything interesting, it was the most interesting thing for the two of them to do when they were together. At 5 o'clock, they returned to the tourist line on time. They took a bus back to Yongtai City and found the Yongtai Fish, Shrimp and Crab Restaurant. It's not the crab season now, but they are famous for their crabs. Let's order too. Yenjika looked at the menu. Luqing said in surprise, But you can't eat crabs. How do you know? Yenjika looked at her boyfriend with a cute face. When I was searching for brown sugar ginger tea, I saw that girls can't eat cold food during their period. For example, crabs. Luqing explained. Yenjika curved her eyebrows and turned her head slightly to the side. Here's what I ordered for you. After a while, the steamed crabs were served, together with the secret soy sauce. Luqing ate the crabs in pieces before. Facing the whole thing, he was a little at a loss and didn't know where to start. Let me do it. Yenjika smiled and took the crab. She skillfully peeled the shell and cleaned the insides. Even the big crab legs were sucked out by her. You are so skillful. Looking at her concentrating, Luqing felt sweet and couldn't help but sigh. People in Jiangnan like to eat crabs. I've been used to it since I was a child. Yenjika smiled and pushed the plate of crabs to Luqing. Luqing picked up a piece and dipped it in the soy sauce. He felt it was delicious and immediately praised. Good, it's delicious. The food with love was better than usual. As soon as he finished speaking, Yenjika suddenly put on a serious face. Wrong answer, 0 points. Luqing was confused. Yenjika snorted and showed her dimples. You should say that you peeled it well. That's the right answer. What a different way of doing things. Luqing was stunned at first, and then felt funny. So this is how to deal with similar situations. After dinner, the two of them strolled around the night market of Yongtai's handicrafts. They knew that this place was a ripoff, so they just looked around. Several times, Luqing wanted to spend money to buy some souvenirs, but Yenjika stopped him. It was already 9 o'clock when they returned to the hotel. Yenjika covered her mouth and yawned. Take a shower early and go to bed early. I'll do morning exercises with you tomorrow. We can't waste it. Luqing nodded and had a different expectation in his heart. He asked politely, Does your stomach still hurt? Much better. It didn't hurt much after the first day. Yenjika answered honestly. Luqing asked anxiously and expectantly, Do you still need to rub your stomach? Yenjika was stunned for a moment, and then realized what he meant. She blushed and spat. No wonder Dirty Tong always said that most men are shameless and insatiable. Chung still wants to sleep here tonight. Luqing was about to say, I won't do anything, and I can't do anything, when he saw her blushing and looking sideways at the carpet. Then you have to behave yourself. Bring it here. Chapter 196. Lu Qing was confused. He didn't expect that the words shameless and insatiable would be followed by behave yourself and give me the things. Wasn't this contrast a little too big? Wait, what did the last two words mean? He suddenly realized and was so happy that he didn't know what to do. Okay. Did Yanjika agree to sleep with him tonight? Although it was just sleeping together in a simple sense, just this alone was a huge improvement in their relationship. Just this alone was a very beautiful thing that he longed for. Lu Qing wasn't stupid enough to ask her why she suddenly changed her mind. He could guess that Yanjika would be so angry that she would go back on her words and kick him out of the room. I can do it, but I can't say it, he said to himself. Then he happily turned around and ran to his room. Clang. Hearing the sound of the door closing, Yanjika, who seemed to have exhausted all her strength from the previous words, raised her hand and touched her face, which was as red as blood. She murmured to herself, "Why did I agree with him? Humph, he can't do anything anyway." Lu Qing ran all the way to his room and took out a change of clothes and martial arts suit for tomorrow morning's training from his backpack. At this moment, an idea flashed through his mind. He paused and thought for a few seconds. Then he put everything back into his backpack, including the dirty clothes he changed into a specially prepared bag. As long as I behave well tonight, I can sleep with her tomorrow night. Why not take all my things and save me the trouble of running back and forth? Besides, I can save a few hundred yuan by checking out of this room in advance tomorrow. As for whether he could behave well tonight, Lu Qing was confident in himself. She was in her menstrual period. Her stomach hurt and her body was cold. How could he think of taking advantage of her? Was he still human? He looked around the room to make sure he didn't miss anything. Then he carried his luggage, took out the room card and ran to the light. He ran to the door of Yanjika's room. Knock, knock, knock. He controlled his excitement and tried not to sound hurried when he knocked on the door. After 3 knocks, Yanjika opened the door and let him in. She then pinned up her hair with a hairpin. It was as if she had become younger by a few years and had returned to the time when she was in junior high. Yanjika's eyes swept over Lu Qing's backpack. She opened her mouth slightly and followed his line of sight. Then she lowered her head and rushed into the bathroom without saying anything. Lu Qing snickered, vaguely feeling that he could grasp the girl's current thoughts. She must be saying that men were indeed insatiable. She had only agreed to do it tonight, but he had already brought everything over and planned for tomorrow night. Since Yanjika had locked the door of the bathroom, Lu Qing couldn't enjoy the sight of her removing her makeup. He had no choice but to put his backpack side by side with her suitcase. He sat on the edge of the bed and waited patiently with an unconcealable smile on his face. He even forgot to play with his phone and browse the forum. After a while, the sound of the shower came from the bathroom. The sound of the shower beat on Lu Qing's heart, making him a little thirsty. He unscrewed a bottle of mineral water and gulped it down. He deeply felt that such a scene was indeed a great test. He clearly knew that he shouldn't do anything, but he still couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. Well, didn't they say that one couldn't take a shower during menstruation? It was only now that he began to have doubts. He was at a loss about the inconsistency between the knowledge he received and reality. I should consult my life mentor, Coach Yen, later. After a while, the sound of the shower stopped. Lu Qing hurriedly sat up straight to show that he wasn't thinking nonsense. The door of the bathroom was opened. Yanjika walked out of the bathroom with her hair tied behind her back, revealing her slender neck. She was so beautiful that Lu Qing almost forgot about his own question. "What are you looking at?" The girl turned her head shyly, not daring to look into her boyfriend's eyes. "I'm looking at a fairy." Lu Qing took a breath of the fragrance and suppressed the throbbing in his heart. He praised her in a joking tone. Yanjika's eyes were watery because she had just taken a shower. She glanced at Lu Qing and said, "Go take a shower." After that, she blushed and added, "Wait for a few more minutes. I've just finished my shower, and Qing wants to go in now. It feels weird." Lu Qing's heart was touched by her glare and his soul almost left his body. He didn't notice her abnormality and asked a question to divert her attention. "Ku, aren't you on your period? How can you take a shower?" "Why can't I?" Yenjuka looked at him strangely. "I usually take a shower after a day and a half or two with the heaviest volume. After that, I take a shower every other day. I just don't wash my hair. Otherwise, I always feel like I have a bloody smell." She was a little shy and didn't continue. "So that's why?" Luqing felt that he had learned something new. He smiled and said, "Coach Yen is indeed my life mentor." His words amused Yenjuka and made the girl tremble with excitement. "Then you have to learn well. There are still many things to learn." After chatting for a few minutes, Luqing got permission to take a change of clothes into the bathroom. He smelled the remaining warmth of the fragrance. He swallowed his saliva and suppressed his restlessness. He quickly brushed his teeth and took a shower. When he was about to finish, he hesitated. "Should I go out in my boxers or put on my jeans again?" Luqing was a little shy because he had never experienced such a scene before. Finally, he dressed neatly and opened the door. The light outside was dim. Yenjuka was lying on her side facing the direction of the bathroom. Her whole body was buried in the quilt, leaving only her fair and delicate oval face and her long black hair outside. She was staring at Luqing silently with her big clear eyes, which were staring at the approaching Luqing. "You don't have pajamas?" Suddenly, Yenjuka blinked and asked, as if she had discovered a great secret. Luqing smiled and said, "Boys are not so particular. I don't wear pajamas." When it was cold, he would wear cotton sweaters and cotton pants. When it was normal, he would be shirtless with a pair of boxers. Why would he need pajamas? It's so troublesome to change. It's not like I have to see anyone. You are indeed a rough man. Yenjuka chuckled and didn't care much about the difference in living habits. She planned to pick 2 sets of pajamas for Chung to cultivate this habit. If he really didn't like it, then forget it. It's not a big deal. When 2 people get along with each other, many ideas and habits will be different. Just focus on the main ones and don't change the minor ones. It will only make the other feel restrained. This was Yenjuka's own opinion. She summed it up according to the books she had read. She didn't know whether it was right or not. Luqing smiled and admitted that he was a rough man. When he was about to take off his jeans and get into bed, he saw Yenjuka was still looking at him with her beautiful eyes full of curiosity. "Damn, I've never taken off my pants in front of a girl before, especially when I'm only wearing a pair of boxers inside." Even with Luqing's current thick skin, he felt a little uncomfortable. He coughed twice and signaled his girlfriend to leave. Yenjuka blinked her eyes. She didn't know what he was coughing for, and didn't want to avoid it at all. She was like a curious baby. "Forget it, it's not me who suffers losses." Luqing took a breath and unbuckled his belt and took off his pants, leaving only his boxers on. Yenjuka's fair and tender face blushed, but there was a smile at the corner of her mouth. She pointed out in a delicate voice, "Chung, you have so much hair on your legs." She had noticed it when she applied ointment for Luqing. Today she saw it in the most direct way. "It's okay." Luqing didn't take off the dark t-shirt he had specially put on. He used it as pajamas in case the girl was embarrassed. "Some guys have much more hair on their legs than me. It's like wearing a pair of woolen pants." He was talking about old Chiu and Chiu Zhigao, but there was no need to mention such a physical thing. Woolen pants. Yenjuka was stunned and then chuckled. "That's a good word, a good word." Luqing shamelessly jumped to the bed with bare legs. He pulled the quilt, got in and leaned on the girl. "Take off your hairy legs." Yenjuka scolded him and asked him to lie down. She put her little feet on his legs and put her hands under his t-shirt on his stomach. The cold and smooth touch made Luqing restless. Plus, it was the girl who took the initiative. He swallowed hard and said, "Ku, what are you doing? Aren't you going to warm my hands and feet?" Yenjuka opened her eyes and looked at Luqing innocently. "You promised to warm my hands and feet in the daytime when you knew a girl's hands and feet would be cold during her period." Luqing turned his head and saw the girl's clear and pure eyes. He took a breath and said, "I feel cold all of a sudden." "Hey, are you cold?" Yenjuka's right hand slid on Luqing's stomach. "Your abs are very obvious." Somehow, Lu Qing thought of the famous overbearing CEO's line, "Woman, you are playing with fire. Cool, I will have a reaction if you do this." He exhaled and reminded Yenjika, in case she accidentally touched the symbol and misunderstood him. Yenjika was shocked and withdrew her hands and feet. She looked at Lu Qing timidly and said, "You will have a reaction like this?" "Well, I have a lot of qi and blood." Lu Qing found an excuse casually. "You can put your hands on me. I can hold it." Oh, Yenjika was more careful this time. She didn't dare to move her hands and feet. Lu Qing was breathing in her fragrance to ease the reaction of his body. Suddenly he heard the girl ask, "Qing, did you help catch a thief this morning?" "Yeah, how did you know?" Lu Qing turned his head in surprise. Yenjika said with a smile, "The news is out." After that, she withdrew her right hand and took out the phone under the pillow. She unlocked the screen and handed it to Lu Qing. "When you were taking a shower just now, I browsed the portal website and found a funny news in the local news section. I clicked on it. Hey, isn't this Qing?" Lu Qing took the girl's phone with great interest. When he took a closer look, he saw his back and the title was, "Deliverer Man helped out and a white-collar girl caught a thief." Deliverer Man? Lu Qing blurted out. "When did I become a deliverer man? Do I look like a deliverer man? Have you ever seen a deliverer man of professional ninth pin?" Chapter 197. Lu Qing skimmed through the news and found that it had basically reconstructed what had happened, except that he was described as a delivery boy. Since it was a local news, there were only a few comments, and most of them were IP fans. Which delivery boy is so awesome? A part-time martial arts disciple? I don't think so. Their delivery boys all have uniforms and logos. This one must be an employee of the restaurant. Beside him, Yenjika buried half of her face in the pillow and punched the bed with her right fist. She said with a muffled laugh, "Delivery boy. Delivery boy. Delivery boy." Lu Qing was both amused and helpless. Recalling that he was bringing breakfast for her, he exhaled and said, "That's right, the delivery boy that belongs exclusively to you." Yenjika's laughter suddenly became softer and stopped. She raised her head and looked at her boyfriend with misty eyes. Her lips opened and closed as she repeated Lu Qing's words silently. "My exclusive delivery boy." Her eyes lit up little by little, like the dreamy starry sky at night. She looked at Lu Qing, wanting to say something but feeling shy. All of a sudden, Lu Qing felt that the sound of the cars on the road and the voices of the pedestrians on the street were all taken away. The surroundings became unusually quiet. It was as if the only thing left in the whole world was the beautiful Yenjika in front of him and her bright eyes. Without the girl's reminder, he suddenly understood what it meant to have the right feeling and atmosphere. He turned to lie on his side, propped up his arms, and moved his head closer little by little. Yenjika's eyelashes fluttered a few times, and she slowly closed her eyes. Lu Qing leaned forward and put his arms around her. He breathed in the girl's breath. At this moment, Yenjika opened her eyes and unconsciously said in a low voice, "You're pressing on my hair." This sentence was like a magic spell. Lu Qing immediately raised his arms and changed his posture. Then he froze on the spot. In an instant, all the atmosphere and feelings were completely dispelled. All the sounds outside returned, and the peaceful and dreamy world fell back into the mortal world again. Lu Qing and Yenjika looked at each other blankly at first, and then laughed at the same time. They couldn't help but laugh at how their romance was ruined in such a strange way. Of course, Lu Qing's laughter also had a touch of bitterness. The good feeling and atmosphere just now was gone after. "You're pressing on my hair." Was this the legendary laughing stock? The girl laughed for a long time. Her cheeks were rosy and cute. Lu Qing could only look at her helplessly, waiting for her to stop. After a while, she finally calmed down. She pursed her lips and looked at Lu Qing. "I don't laugh that much, haha." As she spoke, she laughed again. She felt that the scene just now was especially funny. Lu Qing lay back down and pulled his girlfriend's right hand over, placing it on his stomach to warm it up. Yenjika moved closer to him and curled up next to him. Blinking her eyes, she asked, "Qing, what were you like before? When you were in middle school and elementary school?" She suddenly felt that she really wanted to know more about Lucheng. Lucheng recalled for a moment and said with a smile, "When I was in primary school, I was very short. When I was in 6th grade, I was still called square root 2. However, ever since I started middle school, I grew taller and taller every year. In less than 3 years, I was over 1.7 meters tall. In high school, I didn't grow much, at most 1 or 2 centimeters. However, recently, when I trained my body, I seem to have developed a second time, and I grew taller again." He hadn't measured himself for a few months, so he could only guess based on his feelings. "When you were in elementary school, you must have been easy to bully." Yenjika seemed to be imagining Lucheng, with an inexplicable smile on her face. Lucheng couldn't help but laugh. "How is that possible? No one bullied me at that time." Yenjika's eyebrows and eyes were full of smiles. She gently bit her lower lip and said, "Cheng, let me tell you a secret." "What is it?" Lucheng was excited to hear that it was a girl's secret. Yenjika pursed her lips, lowered her eyebrows and smiled faintly. "When I was in 5th grade, I beat a boy until he cried." Cried before? Lucheng asked word by word. He couldn't believe that his delicate and gentle girlfriend had done such a feat. Yenjika's dimples were bright. She pouted and said, "He sat behind me and always bullied me. He poked my back with the cap of his pen and tied my hair. In short, he was very annoying. I told him very formally that if you do this again, I will tell the teacher. In the end, he scolded me for only knowing how to snitch and being a tattletale. I got angry and said, 'Fine, I won't tell the teacher. If you do this again, I will beat you up.' He tried to teach you a lesson?" Lucheng asked with a smile. Yenjika smiled and raised her head. "Of course. Although I was still very sick at that time, I had been practicing martial arts with my uncle for a year or 2. I knew some fancy moves. I punched him in the stomach and he cried. I was so scared that I thought I had seriously injured him." "And then?" Lucheng asked, playing along. He deeply suspected that the guy who was beaten to tears liked his girlfriend. In elementary and middle school, many boys liked his girlfriend by bullying her. It was very awkward. When he cried, someone went to the head teacher and I was scolded. But fortunately, I took the opportunity to ask for a change of seat. Since then, he would avoid me whenever he saw me." Yenjika smiled embarrassedly. "I was proud of this for a long time," Lucheng said thoughtfully. "When he graduated from elementary school, did he also come to you to write a student record with you?" "How do you know?" Yenjika widened her eyes and asked in surprise. "Don't I know?" Lucheng smiled. "It's obvious." Yenjika rolled her eyes at him and continued, "He did come to me and ask me to write our school records. At that time, I thought it was a chivalrous way of turning hostility into friendship. Later, we went to different junior high schools, so we didn't see each other often. In the 3rd year of junior high school, he came to me like a gangster and confessed his love to me, but I coldly rejected him." "Haha, you deserve it." Lucheng expressed his satisfaction in a concise and comprehensive manner. Yenjika withdrew her right hand from Lucheng's stomach and held his arm. She said cheerfully, "I've told you a secret. Now it's your turn. Cheng, you said you had a crush on me since high school." Thinking of this, she couldn't help but smile. She paused and said, "What about junior high school? What about elementary school? Did you like any girl? Or did any girl like you?" "No," Lucheng answered without hesitation. He sighed and said, "At that time, I was very ignorant and focused all my attention on studying. Moreover, in the early days I was thin and small, so no one was interested in me. Later on, the atmosphere in junior high school became bad, and the female students were proud of knowing gangsters. I didn't interact much with them. I want to see thin and small Cheng." Yenjika pretended to be pitiful. "Do you have old photo albums at home?" "Yes, there are nude photos of me taking a shower when I was 2 or 3 years old." Speaking of this, Lucheng couldn't help laughing. Yenjika's eyes lit up. "Show them to me when you come back to Xioshan during summer vacation." Okay. Do you have photos of your childhood?" Lucheng also wanted to see Ko when she was a little girl. "Quite a lot. My dad took a photo of me as a souvenir. There are dozens of albums." Yenjika smiled sweetly as she recalled the past. They talked about the past, exchanged secrets, and talked about their hearts. Sometimes they were excited. Sometimes they were warm. Unknowingly, the night turned dark and it was 10:30. It's time to sleep. Yenjika looked at the phone screen and said with a little reluctance. Lu Cheng was also immersed in the wonderful feeling of talking about everything. He wanted to continue rambling, but he still nodded with great perseverance and restraint. Let's sleep. At this time, Yenjika's eyes moved. She bit her lower lip and lowered her eyes with both happiness and shyness. Cheng, I really like our interaction just now. I really like it. She said the important words twice. She felt that this was the way she wanted to get along. It didn't have to be intimate. It was also good to hug and talk. I like it too. Lu Qing looked back at her with a smile. After that, he was afraid that Yenjika would reject intimacy, so he worriedly added another sentence to express his thoughts. But I think it's not complete if we only have this. Yenjika understood what he meant. She blushed and said in a slightly coquettish tone, Qing, turn around. Turn around, please. Lu Qing didn't understand and turned around. Then he heard her shyly and timidly say, I just said not to think about that every time. I didn't say we can't. Her voice gradually lowered until it couldn't be heard. Lu Qing was delighted and turned around abruptly. He found that Yenjika was also facing away from him. Her head was buried in the pillow. Her ears were red and crystal cute. At this time, Lu Cheng's heart was only warm and touched, without any color of lust. He turned off the bedside lamp and approached the girl. His right hand passed between the warm bed and her soft waist, completing the hug with his left hand. Then he gently pulled back and let Yenjika's back stick to his chest. Yenjika was stunned at first. Then, because she didn't notice any further movement from Lu Cheng, she softened her body and took the initiative to lean back. She was relieved. The fragrance assailed his nostrils. Lu Cheng, who didn't have any romantic thoughts before, suddenly had a strong reaction. Yenjika felt the change and her body became stiff again. She was a little timid. Lu Cheng hurriedly said in a low voice, Leave it alone. It was really painful and happy. Yenjika didn't struggle. She heard Lu Cheng behind her using the breathing method to regulate her throbbing heart. Her face unconsciously outlined a faint bashful smile. She thought to herself, Cheng, there's something I'm embarrassed to say just now. Sometimes I also like the intimacy between us. I like the way you are full of desire for me. She took a breath and leaned her back a little closer to Lu Cheng's chest. Feeling the warm contact, she smiled like a flower and said, Cheng, good night. Chapter 198. Dragging her suitcase, Yenjika opened the door of her small dormitory and saw that Li Liantong was already back, typing furiously on the keyboard. Are Ruru and Cabbage not back yet? She asked casually. Li Liantong stopped typing and looked over. They are stuck in the old campus. Students returning to school after the holidays were piled up on this day. And the school buses were not enough. That's true. Yenjika chuckled. Ruru might as well skip another day of class. The May Day holiday was on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Zhong Yenru skipped her classes on Monday and Tuesday to connect with the previous weekend, and gave herself a super luxurious 7-day holiday. Li Liantong supported her cheek with one hand, and watched Yenjika open her suitcase and busy packing. She said thoughtfully, You and Qing didn't take the school bus? After getting familiar with each other, she started to call Lu Cheng by his nickname. Yeah, he booked a ride online. Yenjika's lips curled into a faint smile. If he really had to wait for the school bus, he would have to wait for 1 or 2 hours. Sigh, this is a bit of a waste of money. It only costs 4 yuan to take the school bus, but 60 or 70 yuan to book a ride online. Also, Cheng spent a lot on this trip, especially the room, which cost at least 3,000. Plus other miscellaneous expenses, it would be close to 5,000. I wonder how much money he has left. She came from a good family and didn't have to worry about money, so she wasn't sensitive about this since she was young. But now, she always liked to count these things unconsciously. She felt sorry for Lu Cheng. If it weren't for this, She wouldn't have been so shy and reminded her boyfriend to cancel the extra rooms. Li Liantong saw Yenjika's dazed eyes and couldn't help but click her tongue. Cool, you look pretty good. Yenjika came back to herself and rolled her eyes at her roommate. Dirty Tong, although there's nothing wrong with what you said, I feel weird hearing it from your mouth. It had a dirty smell. Li Liantong chuckled and said, I am a pervert, but I still know my manners. I won't pry into other people's privacy, and I won't ask about the intimacy between a young couple. I will only sigh and say that you look good. Bah! What are you thinking about? I'm on my period. Yenjika suddenly realized and glared at Dirty Tong with shame and annoyance. Li Liantong spread her hands and said with a smile, Naive. Menstruation can block one thing, but it can't block other things. As long as a man is lustful, what kind of tricks can't he play? For example. Even if Li Liantong didn't say it out loud, Yenjika was also stunned. She felt that she and Chung were still pure and good kids who couldn't think of so many dirty things. He had read a lot of romance novels, but he had always picked those that were very hazy and beautiful. After being stunned for a moment, she rubbed her forehead and said, Dirty Tong, you've reached a new level of filth. Was this still a little girl who had never been in a relationship before? Li Liantong was not ashamed of this at all, but her expression became serious. Ku, to be honest, I have to remind you of something. What? Yenjika asked blankly. If he doesn't have any reaction when you two are together, you have to be careful. Li Liantong said seriously. Yenjika blushed and pouted playfully. What have you been watching recently? It's so strange. Aren't they just some scumbags who hide their sexual orientation and cheat in marriage? Li Liantong sighed and winked deliberately. Look at your red face. I guess you don't need to worry about this. Yes. Yenjika answered quietly. Ching not only had a reaction, but it was so strong that they almost quarreled because of it. She was too embarrassed to continue this topic, so she sorted out the clothes that needed to be washed and began to choose what to wear for the evening. Do you two have to be so intimate? You just came back, and now you want to go out for a date? Li Liantong was well versed in filth, but she didn't know enough about love. Yenjika said with a smile, his best roommate is treating us to dinner. There are other girls? Li Liantong walked to Yenjika, as if she wanted to give her advice on what to wear. Yes. Yenjika smiled slightly. No wonder. Li Liantong chuckled and looked up and down at her beautiful roommate. She suddenly sighed. Ko, your collarbone is so beautiful. I'm so envious. I like your delicate collarbone. Your preferences are a bit strange. Yenjika heard Dirty Tong mention this several times, but she couldn't help but feel strange every time. Li Liantong smiled. What's so strange about it? What's wrong with collarbone? In this world, there are people who are obsessed with hands, feet, legs, long hair, short hair, flat chest. It's normal that everyone is cute in some way. Then what kind of obsession am I? Yenjika suddenly thought of this question when she heard Dirty Tong's words. She thought about it carefully and felt that she didn't have any preferences. If she had to say, she would probably be obsessed with idiots. Silly Chung. She couldn't help but smile as she thought of something else. What kind of obsession does Chung have? Little fairy? After washing and drying the clothes, Lu Qing tidied himself up and made a final confirmation with Little Ming. According to the time, he left a little earlier and waited outside the third building. Not long after, he saw his girlfriend coming out with a bag. Yenjika was wearing a white t-shirt and black knee-length culottes. Her legs were white and straight, and she wore light-colored sneakers. She looked simple yet not simple, beautiful yet youthful. She had also applied something on her face, which made her look really radiant and beautiful. You don't have to be so formal, right? Lu Qing was half stunned and half confused. Ku had never dressed up so seriously on a date with him, except for the first time. Yenjika's dimples appeared. She lowered her eyebrows and smiled. Sometimes, for a girl, meeting another girl is more serious than meeting her boyfriend. Ah. Lu Qing was confused. Forget it. You guys won't understand. Yenjika held his arm with one hand and said with a smile, let's go. At this time, they didn't need to wait in line to get to the old campus, so they didn't book a taxi online. They arrived at Songqing in the usual way and went to Taoren restaurant near the school. The environment here was elegant. There were all kinds of porcelain and books, which separated the tables from each other. Not only did it ensure privacy, but it also showed style. Coupled with the slightly dim lighting, it was really quite a suitable place for dating. As expected of the Casanova, he really knows how to pick a place. Lu Qing sighed with emotion, and then told the waitress the table number. Under the guidance of the waitress, he and Yin Zheke found Kai Zongming and his girlfriend hand in hand. Kai Zongming stood up and introduced them to each other with a smile. Cheng, this is my girlfriend Fang Yuan. Yuan, this is Cheng, and this is his girlfriend, Yin Zheke. Lu Cheng and Yin Zheke nodded to the girl who stood up after Kai Zongming. Nice to meet you. Fang Yuan was a girl of medium height with an average appearance. Her eyes were a little out of shape. She was wearing a t-shirt and an ankle-length skirt, with a little makeup on her face. She looked at Lu Cheng and smiled. Nice to meet you, Cheng. I often hear him talk about you. Although he always says you have abnormal talent and amazing strength, I can feel that he admires your perseverance and persistence the most. He also quit a lot of bad habits with you. At first Lu Cheng was listening with a smile. However, as he listened he felt something was wrong. Student Fang Yuan's aura was more serious, and the way she spoke was more formal. In an instant he felt a kind of pressure. The pressure of facing the teaching director. He took a deep breath and joked. I can't believe what you're saying, can I? It's good enough that talker didn't insult me. How could he praise me and admire me? It's not scientific. Kai Zongming also smiled and interrupted. Yuan, I told you Cheng won't believe me. You don't understand the way men get along. If you say I admire him, he will be scared. They teamed up to make the two girls laugh, and the atmosphere returned to normal. After they sat down and exchanged a few words, Kai Zongming winked at Lu Cheng. Lu Qing took the hint and looked around. Where's the washroom? I'll take you there. Ladies, please look at the menu first. Kai Zongming stood up with a smile and turned to a corner with Lu Cheng. As soon as they left, the two girls who didn't know each other fell into silence. But Yin Zheke, with her good upbringing, took the initiative to start a conversation. She smiled and asked, I heard you're from the Capital College's mathematics department? Yes. Fang Yuan answered uncomfortably. Did Professor Smith give a lecture at your school last month? Yin Zheke asked with interest. Professor Smith was a top scholar who had switched from mathematics to finance. You know about it too? Fang Yuan's eyes lit up. Yes, I'm very interested in this. Can you tell me more about the situation? Yin Zheke asked with interest. Fang Yuan seemed to have found a soulmate, and soon opened her mouth. In the bathroom, Lu Qing looked at Kai Zongming with amusement. It's not good to leave them alone, is it? That's not considerate. I'm just afraid you'll say something wrong. My Yuan is more old-fashioned. Don't make fun of me. Kai Zongming washed his hands. Old-fashioned? Lu Qing asked in surprise. What's wrong? I like her old-fashioned, Kai Zongming said with annoyance. I didn't expect you to like this type. Lu Qing sighed. You don't know what I thought of when I was facing her. Forget it, I won't say it. It's okay to insult a friend, but it's not okay to insult his girlfriend. Kai Zongming sighed and said, Is it like facing the dean? Damn, you know? Lu Qing looked at Casanova in surprise. We've been deskmates for many years. At first, I didn't think I'd like her at all. How could I like a serious, old-fashioned girl who likes to manage people? But then I fell for her unknowingly. Kai Zongming recalled the past and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Damn it, I hate my parents the most. I hate serious, old-fashioned people the most. But when I face her, it's like Sun Wukong in front of Buddha. I like her to manage me. I like her serious look. Lu Qing was stunned. After a long time he said, I didn't expect you to be like this, little Ming. You like this type. Does this count as Stockholm Syndrome? You're really like a pot and a lid. While talking, they returned to their seats and were surprised to see Yin Zheke and Fang Yuan chatting happily. Kai Zongming was stunned and said, I kind of regret letting you bring your girlfriend. Girls can pass information to each other when they're familiar with each other. Lu Qing sucked in a breath of cold air. I regret it too. Xu Rui, who was dating her boyfriend, suddenly received a call from the director. You work overtime today and finish the interview with Lu Qing. Broadcast it the day after tomorrow to coincide with the lottery ceremony. The director said concisely. Xu Rui felt the urge to smash the phone. Chapter 199. Rui, what's wrong? Cheng Mingqian, sitting opposite her, noticed his girlfriend's hidden anger. Xu Rui complained. It's all because of our director. I've already suggested to the director to broadcast the interview during the draw ceremony of the knockout round. They discussed it over and over again, but couldn't make up their minds. They were so wishy-washy. If they had told me earlier, I would have done it before the holidays. I wouldn't have had to work overtime. Cheng Mingqian held her hand as if he was a student. He smiled and said, Is it because of the interview? You know about it? Xu Rui's eyes lit up. Her attention was diverted. Cheng Mingqian said proudly, How can a boyfriend not know what his girlfriend is busy with and what she has been busy with? I'll remember the key points you mention. Xu Rui chuckled softly. It's that interview. Sai, don't you think that all of you as leaders change your mind one moment after another? Anyway, I'm not. Cheng Mingqian said seriously, Rui, you don't have to work so hard. It's not like I can't support you. It's a job. If you feel it's interesting, you can do it. If it's tiring and troublesome, it will affect your normal life and health. It's better to be a full-time housewife. If Director Zhao calls again, you can just tell him to work overtime. Xu Rui looked at her boyfriend and sighed. I want to do that too. But how can I be a full-time housewife when I haven't gotten married and haven't even met his parents? Besides, I don't like to be someone else's canary. Speaking of this topic, Cheng Mingqian's fair and gentle face showed some embarrassment. Rui, don't worry. When the company is on the right track, my mom can't find any excuses. I'll take you back to see her. 1 year, I promise, within 1 year. His mother was too strong. She was the famous Iron Lady of the business world in Songcheng. She had made a whole set of arrangements for him, including his future marriage plan. If he didn't have enough confidence, he wouldn't dare to take his girlfriend to see her. Xu Rui smiled. I believe you. She had heard similar words many times, and she had also said similar words many times. After dinner, Xu Rui asked her boyfriend to drive her to the TV station to work overtime. Today, she boldly tried on a bohemian-style long dress with a pair of high-heeled sandals that she rarely wore. She felt a little bit of pain on her feet, and as soon as she sat in the front passenger seat, she couldn't help but touch the wound. Cheng Mingqian glanced at him and didn't say anything. He drove the car out of the underground. After driving along the street for a while, he suddenly stopped the car by the roadside. What's wrong? Xu Rui looked at her boyfriend blankly. Cheng Mingqian smiled. Give me 5 minutes. He pulled the handbrake, opened the door and rushed through the crosswalk. Because of the obstacles, Xu Rui couldn't see where he ran to. She was confused for a moment. A few minutes later, Cheng Mingqian rushed back with a bag. He took out a box from it and took out a pair of white sneakers. He smiled and said, Wear this first. I don't think I remembered your size wrong. Xu Rui glanced at the shoes with sparkling eyes and felt a surge of warmth in her heart. I thought you didn't notice it. After putting on the shoes, she felt that the grievances of working overtime had been alleviated. She regained the mood to chat with her boyfriend and arrived at the building where Songcheng TV station was located. When you're done, give me a call. I'll pick you up. Cheng Mingqian made a phone call. As for now, he had to go back and report. Xu Rui smiled and waved. She walked into the building with her handbag. While waiting for the elevator, she couldn't help but sigh. Her boyfriend was good at everything. He was much better than the immature first love and the male chauvinist second love. Otherwise, she wouldn't have fallen in love with him among so many pursuers. She also wouldn't have given up the offer from Huahai Satellite TV and left her hometown to come to Songcheng. Sai, his biggest problem is that he's a bit of a mommy's boy. Forget it. There's no perfect man in the world. Xu Rui comforted herself. She boarded the elevator and came to the second editing room. She saw Yang-won, who was also working overtime because of the interview. Won, what are you thinking about? Shu Rui noticed that Yang-won was a little absent-minded. Yang-won was startled. She covered her chest and said, Little Rui, don't you make any sound when you walk? You're too focused on things. Shu Rui chuckled. Yang-won looked at Shu Rui and hesitated. Little Rui, let me ask you a question. I have a friend who likes a man. She wants to take the initiative. What should I do? Shu Rui burst into laughter. Won, I'll pretend that this friend is you. Yang-won was immediately embarrassed. She realized that she had been too obvious just now. Shu Rui stopped smiling and said seriously, I don't dare to say that all men are the same, but there are a lot of them who can't stand flirting. You get his contact information and find a topic to talk about every day. Be more lively, cheerful, and cute. Don't talk for too long and become a burden to him. 3 months. Believe me, 3 months at most. You'll definitely be able to flirt with him. As for whether you flirt with him and become his girlfriend or just have sex, it depends on his character. That's it. Yang-won was stunned. Shu Rui spread out her hands. You have to learn how to put on makeup and make yourself look okay. And I'm only talking about some men, not all. Have you tried? Yang-won blurted out. Nope. Shu Rui looked innocent. I've never taken the initiative to flirt with anyone. This is what my roommate told me. She successfully flirted with several men. And the result? Yang-won asked curiously. Shu Rui's mouth twitched. I'm embarrassed to mention her. She only enjoys the process of flirting. Once she's done flirting and the other party becomes passionate and proactive, she'll lose interest and blacklist them. The world is so big. There are all kinds of strange things. Yang-won could only sigh to herself. Shu Rui put down her purse and picked up the cup. She smiled and said, Contact me on WeChat if you have any questions. Let's organize the interview first. Don't be late. At 9 o'clock on Sunday night, Zhong Yanru came out of the small dormitory next door and saw Li Liantong sitting on the simple sofa with a cup in her hand. Dirty Tong, what are you watching? She asked curiously. Li Liantong changed the channel and laughed. Isn't there a draw for the knockout round tonight? What knockout round? Zhong Yanru was confused. The knockout round of the martial arts club. Have you forgotten? Li Liantong explained. Zhong Yanru replied. Oh, I wouldn't have remembered if you didn't mention it. Me too. Luckily, Ka mentioned it at noon. Li Liantong complained. I really don't know how they arranged the schedule. The group stage ended in the first week of April, but now they're just starting the draw. It's been almost a month. If you don't pay attention, who will remember it? Zhong Yanru sat beside her and answered casually. The school will definitely publicize it. Most of the nearly 10,000 spectators who came to the martial arts club to cheer were just there for the fun. Currently, there were very few people who insisted on paying attention to the martial arts club. Once the craze was over, they would gradually forget about it. After all, they still had to study, fall in love, play games, read novels, shop online, and pay attention to all kinds of headlines. Everyone was very busy. You're right. Li Liantong held the cup and took a sip. Her eyes were fixed on the screen. Stop talking. It's starting. Similar scenes happened only a few times in the campus of Songqing University. Yan Xiaoling and the other netizens of Lu Cheng's fan forum were already in full swing discussing it, praying that they wouldn't be drawn against those particularly strong teams. Lu Cheng, Yan Zheka and other special training members of the martial arts club gathered in the martial arts club's martial arts stadium, which had already closed. They occupied Gieserscher's office and watched the live broadcast on their laptops. When the first group was drawn, they instinctively felt a little nervous and waited for the second group anxiously. The second group, Songqing University Martial Arts Club. The female guest took out the first small ball. In the office, everyone held their breaths. What happened next would determine whether or not they would be able to get more of the broadcasting rights. The female guest took out another round ball and looked at it carefully. Then she raised her voice and said, Donglin Squad. Songqing University Martial Arts Club versus Donglin Squad. Phew. The sound of exhalation was heard. Lu Cheng and the others were relieved. This wasn't the worst draw. Songqing's Yueyao squad had a professional 7th pin, and an professional 8th pin Dan stage Mighty 1. They were almost guaranteed to advance to the second stage of the preliminaries. Donglin's squad, on the other hand, came from Donglin City, the other end of the province's economy. It was a squad formed by a local martial arts sect. They had a long history that could be traced back to at least 1,000 years. There was a high-ranked Dan stage Mighty 1 in the sect, who was the leader of the martial arts circle in Donglin City. Donglin's squad has an professional 8th pin Dan stage Mighty 1, and 3 professional 9th pin fighters. All of them are from the younger generation of Wuxia school. They are a little stronger than Fearless squad. Yin Zhika recalled the information she had read. There were only a few teams in the top 8. She had already browsed through the general information. It's not hopeless. Sun Jian looked at Lu Qing and Lin Kei with a smile. The knockout was in the form of home and away matches. The result of the draw was the first to determine the winner. If each team won one match, the score would be calculated, which was the total number of wins. If it was the same, the substitutes would compete with each other after the second match to determine the overall strength of the team. Another Dan stage Mighty 1. Lu Qing was a little excited, but also a little nervous. Wuxia school was also a force with a long history. Their Dan stage Mighty 1 must be above average. Yin Zheka was about to say something when she suddenly saw a video clip playing between the two teams, introducing the two teams. They didn't talk anymore, and carefully read the official information. While watching, Yin Zheka suddenly turned her head and looked at her boyfriend with surprise and joy. Chung, is this the interview you accepted before? Why did it only start now? Chapter 200. In the dormitory building, Li Liantong and Zhong Yanru were watching Lu Cheng's exclusive interview with great interest. This was the first time they had seen someone they knew on the television screen. The random interview with the audience and the brief post-match comments did not count. He's a little different from the Chung that Ke mentioned. Li Liantong laughed as she watched. Whenever Ke mentioned her boyfriend, the most common word she would say was silly. Zhong Yanru nodded and said, "It's a little different from the last time you treated us." That time, the focus of the conversation was on the couple's relationship. Lu Cheng showed his humorous, considerate, and generous side. In the interview that was being broadcasted, the main topic was martial arts, which was Lu Cheng's field of expertise. He spoke confidently, calmly, and gently. Although he was still a little shy and inexperienced, the brilliance of him couldn't be concealed. This made the semi-acquaintances who had only seen him a few times and only watched him fight in the challenge tournament feel the contrast and impact. Li Liantong opened her mouth. She wanted to make a dirty joke, but in the end it turned into a sigh. "'Cause taste is really good." Yeah. Zhong Yanru recalled her understanding of Lu Qing and her impression of him when she met him a few times. She couldn't help but agree. Yan Shaoling sat by the window in the second row of the classroom. The books on the table had been piled up into a fortress. She rested her chin on one hand and pretended to comb her hair with the other. She pressed her earplugs and looked at the phone on the edge of the drawer with a well-practiced attitude. She was watching the interview with a silly smile. This was a pleasant surprise. She originally just wanted to check the results of the draw in the forum, and didn't have any expectations for other things. Who knew that Songqing TV station would make a big news and broadcast the long-awaited interview? "Hey, this is the first time I've seen Lu Qing talk so much." Yin Shaoling smiled. The whole interview was not much different from what she had expected. It was obvious that Lu Qing was not the kind of martial artist with a particularly distinctive character. His personal style was vague, and he seemed to be an ordinary, precocious boy. Although he was confident, calm, and dazzling, if one really wanted to describe his personality traits, he lacked any explosive points. To put it simply, Yan Shaoling felt that Lu Qing was the kind of boy next door, which matched her initial impression of him as warm and considerate. He didn't disappoint her. Thinking of this, she sent a message to Brahman, deliberately provoking her. Lu Qing doesn't seem to have that kind of mysterious temperament. For this reason, she even added a crying emoji. Brahman quickly replied, I'm no longer the child I used to be. I like my idol. Immediately after, she added, That's right. Call me father. How rude of you. What do you mean I'm no longer the child I used to be? It had only been slightly more than 3 months. Yin Xiaoling complained. Just as she was about to press the keyboard on the screen, her heart suddenly tightened. She found that the light on her phone seemed to be covered with a layer of shadow. She quietly stuffed her phone back into the drawer and covered her ears with both hands again. Then, from the corner of her eyes, she saw a black shadow outside the window. The mysterious homeroom teacher. Under the night sky, the remaining lights of the teaching area were reflected on the surface of the lake, rippling with the slightly cool night breeze. This interview was taken before Valentine's Day, right? Yinjika swung her hand that was holding Lu Cheng's hand like a swing. Yes. Lu Cheng looked at the girl with a smile, often showing her liveliness recently. Of course, in front of others, she was no different from before. Yinjika stopped her childish behavior and sighed inexplicably. It's only been 2 months, but you've changed so much in the interview. It always makes me feel that it's been a long time since school started. Just like how she sometimes felt that they had been dating for a long time. So long that she had gotten used to each other's breath and temperature. She didn't have the nerve to say this, so she said with a smile, The experience of the preliminaries has helped you a lot. More mature, more confident, more responsible. I think so. Lu Cheng smiled and turned to look at the girl's clear and bright eyes. It's mainly because I have a girlfriend. This made him mature not only in the arena. Yenjika's pretty face was blushing. She turned her head and looked to the side, gnashing her teeth. See, this is the change. You're getting more and more thick-skinned. There was no trace of anger in her coquettish tone. Lu Cheng snickered and pulled the girl over. He let go of her hand and wrapped his arms around her slender waist. This was the way he liked to walk recently. Donglin City, Wenqing Mountain. Behind the vacation villa area where the land was worth thousands of dollars, old buildings with a sense of time erosion were scattered in the picturesque scenery, complementing the peaceful and quiet mountain night. In one of the buildings, the lights were bright, illuminating rows of bookshelves, a table covered with rice paper, and a young man in a black Han suit with red stripes. He was in his early 20s. He was holding a brush in his hand, concentrating on writing words that were sharp and restrained. Senior brother Zhou, don't you care about the result of the draw? On the other side of the study, 2 female guests were sitting. One of them had a ponytail, thick but not messy eyebrows, which made her look quite pretty. Zhou Zhengqiuan's breath was unchanged, and his writing was not messy. He said leisurely, What's the use of caring? Do you think I can force those old men to start again if I get moonshine? There was only one rule in the draw of the preliminaries, which was to avoid the first and second place of the group. Anything could happen, so it was particularly exciting. At this point he laughed. Junior Sister Yi, you didn't pay attention to the Yanling Division's lot drawing ceremony, and brought Sister Jianglan here to wander around blindly. The speaker was Yi Yaoting from the Iya Martial Arts Club in Yanling. Her family was closely related to the Wenqing School. They both belonged to the branch of the Black Tortoise School, one of the 12 major forces. Their core martial arts originated from the Heavenly Water Scripture, the unique skill of the Water Sect, and the Black Tortoise Sword. Therefore, when they interacted with each other, they called each other senior brothers and junior sisters. Who said I don't care? Isn't there still a week to go? Yi Yaoting looked at Zhou Zhengquan with disdain. Regarding this matter, she had said it 3 times, but senior brother Zhou obviously didn't take it to heart. The Yanling division was relatively large, and there were more teams than Songcheng. There were 2 more rounds in the group stage, so the draw ceremony was a week later. Yi Yaoting had nothing to do, so she thought that the Wenqing school seemed to have formed a team to participate in the preliminaries and had successfully passed. She simply invited Jianglan for a short trip, and came here to exchange ideas. The demure and gentle Jianglan followed with a laugh. If we really get moonshine, I'm looking forward to seeing the change in your expression. She was a little older than Zhou Zhengquan, so after they got familiar with each other, she called herself his sister. Moonshine Squad was a strong team capable of competing for a place in the second stage of the preliminaries, and its reputation was not small in this circle. What change can there be? Just admit it. Zhou Zhengquan's writing style did not change at all, and the skeleton of the words was thick and heavy. Anyway, we can only wait for one more year. This time, if they still can't pass the second stage, the team will probably be disbanded. Wang Sheng and Li Menglong already have a lot of invitations in their hands, from clubs in the North and South Division, and from teams in other big cities who want to form a team of 3 or 4 dance stage to compete in the North and South Division. Wasn't their original slogan, Brothers United, take root in Songcheng? Yi Yaoting blurted out, with some ridicule and amusement, but also some sadness and pity. Will dreams yield to reality after all? Zhou Zhengquan put down the weasel hair brush in his hand and wiped his palms with a white towel. He sighed and said, "There's nothing we can do about it. Songcheng is big, but we have limited resources. Yongshi and the other 2 are enough." While he was talking, there was a sound of footsteps outside the door. Hou jumped in and said excitedly, "Senior brother Zhou, the results are out." "It looks good." Zhou Zhengquan looked at his junior brother with a smile. He secretly exhaled when Yi Yaoting and Jiang Lan were not paying attention. The draw can be ruined, but not the demeanor. Hou answered with a smile. "Not bad, not bad. Songcheng University Martial Arts Club." Songcheng University Martial Arts Club? Yi Yaoting was moved and asked subconsciously, "Songcheng University Martial Arts Club?" Some failures could be forgotten in a second, but some failures could be remembered clearly. Beside her, Jiang Lan was also interested and looked like she was waiting for the answer. "Yes, senior sister Yi, you should know their leading member. He participated in the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament." Hou vaguely remembered the general information. Yi Yaoting took a breath and said, "Lu Cheng? He became the leading member of Songcheng University Martial Arts Club? He should have gotten the certificate of professional 9th pin, right? I told you you would know him, senior sister Yi." Hou was like a monkey with ADHD who couldn't calm down. Lu Cheng, as one of the leading members, led Songcheng University Martial Arts Club into the knockout stage? Yi Yaoting couldn't hide her curiosity and asked, "Junior brother Hou, how is Lu Cheng's strength now?" She knew that although Hou seemed to be uncertain, he was actually quite proud. A professional 9th pin less than 18 years old was indeed qualified to be proud. The smile on Hou's face disappeared as he said seriously, which was rare for him. "Very, very powerful." After that he couldn't help but add, "Very powerful." This was the answer of the proud junior brother Hou? Yi Yaoting forgot to breathe for a moment. Back in the dormitory, Lu Qing browsed the information of Donglin's squad. Their members were all from the Wenxing school and practiced the fly-fall punch, which originated from the unique skill of the water sect. The oldest was Zhu Yanjun, a 24-year-old professional 9th pin fighter. The youngest was Hou, an 18-year-old professional 9th pin fighter. The leading general was Zhou Zhengquan, a 21-year-old professional 8th pin fighter, and Li Xingnan, a 23-year-old professional 9th pin fighter. A very strong and young team. Lu Cheng forgot that he was only 19 years old, and that none of the leading members and substitutes of the martial arts club were over 22 years old. The moonlight was quiet in the mountains and the wind was blowing at night. Jiang Long closed her laptop and exhaled slowly. She couldn't hold back her emotions, so she stood up, opened the door, and walked to the corridor. The core force of the ice sect, the limitless tremor punch. Lu Cheng's rapid progress made her feel inexplicable fear. She had only learned tremor punch a year ago when she was in dance stage, and she was still figuring out force. How long had it been? She subconsciously looked at Yi Yaoting's room, and was surprised to see her best friend sitting quietly in the dark, staring out of the window. Chapter 201. Noticing Jiang Lan's stare, Yi Yaoting shuddered. Her eyes regained their luster and she said blankly, "Sister Lan, you can't sleep either?" Jiang Lan stared at her and chuckled. "Are you upset?" Yi Yaoting was silent for more than 10 seconds and sighed faintly, "A little. Previously, I thought that after going through the trials, I had matured a lot in all aspects, from my temperament to my strength. In the end, after watching his recent competition videos, I realized what it means to feel too good about oneself. As for the previous battle, she felt more surprised. The kid who was obviously easy to bully had suddenly awakened his innate talent, and awakened his special ability, causing a short burst of power that caught her off guard. If they were to fight again, the result would not be like this. However, in less than 4 months, that young and inexperienced fellow had completely transformed into a formidable opponent. Regardless of whether it was one of the core forces of the ice sect or the endless tremor punch, they were all things that were currently out of his reach. At this time, if she were to encounter him, her chances of winning would be very, very low. Jianglan shook her head slightly and laughed at herself. I'm also a little upset. Tremor punch is still okay. With the inheritance and guidance, it's not too exaggerated to master it in half a year. But the core force of the ice sect is enough to make many professional 8th pin Dan stage fighters envious. Isn't it always difficult to grasp the essence and charm of a visualization diagram? Just by mastering meditation, there shouldn't be any obvious advantage. Her tremor punch was self-created. She gradually realized the mystery of it through constant practice with similar martial arts. Then she spent the points of the Martial Artist Association to ask for guidance on the key points of visualization. After a year, she finally created her own tremor punch. With the realm of Dan stage where the strength of the whole body was integrated into one, the subtle control of the muscles was not difficult for her. As for force, it was a low-level type that did not require comprehension of a visualization diagram. It was not very useful even if it was mastered, just like the burning force of Hongluo Martial Arts School. In order to grasp the essence and charm of a visualization diagram, one had to be close to mastering meditation. In addition, there were 81 difficulties. Hearing Jianglan's words, Yi Yaoting's mood improved a lot. I thought I was the only one who was upset. It turns out that Sister Lan was also shocked. Sigh, maybe he will even surpass me one day. Don't worry too much about this. Generally speaking, the faster you advance, the more time you need to settle down before you reach the threshold of Dan stage. Unless you have the wisdom of previous lives. Jianglan comforted her. But you have already touched the threshold of Dan stage, and are only one step away from mastering the meaning of withdraw. Yi Yaoting pulled the hair hanging by her mouth childishly. Sister Lan, Sister Lan. Sister Lan, you don't have to comfort me. You know that I'm a little heartless, and I'll recover in the blink of an eye. Besides, it's not a bad thing to be provoked at this time. In the past, I was always in the limelight among the warriors of the same age. Not only was I born with divine strength, but my cultivation level was also very fast. I was always able to suppress the majority of people. That's why I was a little conceited and a little arrogant. But now, with a comparison, it hurts me, it sets me off. I realized that I was originally nothing. If I want to go further, then I have to calm down and calm down. Jianglan nodded thoughtfully. This may be a good thing for you. At 10:30 on Saturday morning, in the train to Donglin City, sitting next to Yanjika, Lu Cheng and Yanjika were chatting about the latest hot news, dutifully playing the role of an onlooker, flirting with each other from time to time. Just then his cell phone made a ding sound. He picked it up and saw a delightful message. 20,000. 00 yuan has been transferred to your savings card ending with XXXX. Current balance is 25,813. 74. The broadcasting bonus is in my account. Lu Cheng put his phone in front of Yanjika, without any intention of hiding the specific amount of his private savings. After the lot drawing ceremony, the organizing committee had distributed the broadcasting bonus to each participating team. But Songqing University maintained its usual style of procrastination in administrative affairs. It wasn't until Friday afternoon that the accounting was completed, and the finance department went to the bank. Martial arts bonuses like this were generally calculated after tax, and the organizing committee would withhold income tax. I haven't arrived yet. Yanjika frowned her long black eyebrows and said, half surprised and half puzzled. Maybe the bank is different and it's the weekend, so it can't be so timely. Lu Qing guessed the reason. Maybe the school's finance department went to several banks at an awkward time, so some of them were transferred in time, while others had to wait until Monday. Maybe there was a system delay in his text message. It's okay. Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled. She couldn't hide the curiosity in her eyes as she glanced at Lu Cheng's phone screen. Cheng only had a little more than 5,000 yuan left in his private savings. I can't let him book such an expensive hotel next time I travel. Yeah, I'll take the initiative to invite him on a date tomorrow. I have my own private savings too. Receiving the bonus in time before the competition was a big incentive for Lu Cheng. It made him less nervous and more eager to fight. If he could beat Donglin's squad and enter the semifinals, there would be more bonuses. After 2.5 hours, at 12:15 noon, the martial arts club arrived at Donglin North Station. They saw the organizing committee staff and a minibus coming to pick them up. Seeing this, Sun Jian and the others immediately recalled their experience in Yimo. They asked fearfully, "How many live spectators are there this time?" The terrifying atmosphere in Yimo was like it was going to swallow all challengers. "Not many, I guess." The staff thought for a while and said, "The competition is in Wenxing School's dojo, halfway up the mountain. At most a few hundred people can sit." Phew. Li Mao exhaled and smiled at Sun Jian, Lin Hua and the others before settling down. Boarding the minibus, Yenjika looked out of the window with a clean face and suddenly sighed. When I watched professional martial arts competitions in the past, I especially liked and envied those hardcore fans who would follow the team to the away games. Without waiting for her to finish, Lu Cheng already knew what she meant. He leaned close to her head and looked out of the window. This can't be rushed. The martial arts club has just risen again. Everyone doesn't have such deep feelings. It takes 5 hours to go back and forth by train. Hee. I used to think that after I graduate from university and earn some money, I'll follow the Longhu Club a few times during my holidays. That kind of atmosphere and feeling would be great. People came and went outside the window, but most of them didn't feel like students. You might be too embarrassed to do that after you graduate from university. Yenjika thought of a fun scene and smiled deeply with her dimples. If people find out that a team or club's leading player is a follower of the Longhu Club, it will be very interesting. As long as Chung could successfully advance to Dan stage in university, with his Frost Force and Thunder Roar Zen, he could be the main force in the third level of the North-South Division competition. If he improved faster than that and reached the level of Peng Liyun and Ren Li, maybe he would directly go to the Wuxia Club or the Longhu Club and be trained as a reserve talent. It will also be very embarrassing. Lu Cheng thought seriously and said, "But now I can make money without graduation. If there is a chance, I can ask Ku to give it a try. She seems to be very interested. Moreover, in another year, little Wantan will graduate from high school and the Longhu Club Forum will organize a meetup. It is very likely that they will arrange to watch the competition together." As he spoke, his gaze suddenly froze, because he saw a few familiar figures. Isn't the guy walking out of the station Kai Xiaoming? He is followed by Zhao Chang, Qiu Zhigao, Zhang Jingye and his girlfriend Wu Qian, and Wu Qian's 3 roommates. "Look over there." Lu Cheng patted Yenjika's shoulder. Yenjika stared at him and asked in a daze, "Your roommates?" She knew Kai Zongming and Qiu Zhigao. At this time, Kai Zongming and Zhao Chang seemed to have noticed their gazes and looked over. They waved their hands happily and made a gesture of cheering. "Do they count as our first group of fans?" Yenjika's eyes sparkled and she laughed in a low voice. Lu Cheng answered seriously and sincerely, "I think they are taking the opportunity to make friends with their roommates." With the excuse of following the martial arts club to Donglin and cheering for them, they invited their roommates to play in a different place and make friends with them. How clever! I have been roommates for almost a year. How can I not know what they are thinking? This must be Xiaoming's idea. The car drove away. Lu Cheng and the others gradually moved away from Kai Zongming and his roommates. After half an hour's drive and lunch, they arrived at the foot of Wenxing Mountain at 2 in the afternoon. Then the minibus went up the mountain road. It took them 40 minutes to reach the mountainside and the main gate of the Wenxing School's training hall. At 3:30, the competition would start on time. Is this another kind of home field advantage? Yenjika got off the bus, breathed in the fresh mountain air, and looked up. Lu Cheng also noticed and nodded solemnly. Yes. Wenxing School didn't deliberately create a home field atmosphere like Yimo. They chose to wait at ease. From the new campus of Songqing University to here, he and the others had spent a total of nearly 6 hours. Although they had caught up on sleep in the car midway, the effect was not very good. Except for himself, the others could be said to be completely fatigued from the journey, and their combat strength had unknowingly weakened by a lot. We should have left last night and stayed in Donglin City for one night. It's normal that we didn't think of this because we don't have much experience. Why didn't Master remind us? Why didn't he make arrangements in advance? Geyser walked out of the bus, feeling refreshed. He stretched his body, coughed twice and said, "That's right. Let's go in. Is it easy for me to be an undercover agent?" Chapter 202. Lu Cheng and the others stepped into the dojo of Wenxing School after passing through the dark and cold cloister, and crossing the threshold carved with the passage of time. A ray of sunlight fell from the dome, mixed with the color of the glazed tiles. It illuminated the bluestone ring in the center, the training ground around it, and the wear and tear marks accumulated over time. There were high platforms on both sides of the dojo, divided into several rows. At the top, there were seats for guests who seemed to be of high status. Here, it was hard to imagine the unrestrained and ostentatious feeling of the martial arts arena of Songqing University. The spectators were either in formal training suits or in suits. It was as if they were watching an opera instead of a fierce battle. Seniors, officials, celebrities, disciples. Lu Cheng could almost guess the identity of most of the audience. Yen Zheka beside him seemed to have the same feeling. She tilted her head and whispered in his ear. "It's like the exchange of sex recorded in the ancient books." Yes. Lu Cheng suddenly realized. This was a perfect summary of his feelings just now. In ancient times, when sex had exchanges and sparring sessions, they would invite the local martial arts seniors and officials to spectate. They would also allow their disciples to sit in as spectators as possible. There was nothing wrong with this, but it was completely different from the competition atmosphere that Lu Cheng and Yen Zheka had been exposed to since childhood. In those times, martial arts didn't belong to the public. Ordinary people didn't even have the right to cheer. Lu Cheng undoubtedly preferred the enthusiasm in his own martial arts arena. He and Yen Zheka shared such feelings and followed Geyser into the away team locker room. In a seat on the high platform, Yi Yaoding, wearing a light-colored coat, watched Lu Cheng's figure and asked with a slightly complicated expression, "Sister Lan, which side do you think has a higher chance of winning?" The draw ceremony for the Yanling division was tomorrow night. She and Jiang Lan didn't rush back, because they couldn't interfere with the final result anyway. Jiang Lan held her chin with one hand and smiled slightly. In terms of winning probability, Wenxing School is definitely more likely. But Lu Cheng and Lin Ke have their own characteristics and strengths. They belong to the top part of the professional 9th pin fighters. If they participate in the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament, in the later stage, it's not impossible to defeat those 8th pin fighters who consume a lot of energy. If they team up and take turns to fight, little brother Zhou won't be able to handle it. Senior brother Zhou is a little stronger than Wei Xingtian, but there is a limit to it. Compared to when he defeated Fearless Squad, both Lu Cheng and Lin Ke have improved a lot. Yi Yaoding didn't say it clearly, but the meaning was clear. She was worried that Zhou Zhengquan would lose more cleanly than Wei Xingtian. She paused and asked half curiously, "Sister Lan, do you think it's possible that Lin Ke has entered the Danqi state?" "It's not that easy to reach the Danqi stage." Jiang Lan laughed. Lin Ke only grasped the meaning of withdraw at the end of March. Up until now, it has been less than 2 months. Speaking of those painstaking efforts, he can't finish them. It took me 7 months to grasp the meaning of withdraw and step into the Danqi state. No matter how talented he is, he can't build a tall building from scratch without 3 or 4 months of foundation. I see. Yi Yaoding nodded thoughtfully. Then Wenxing School has a better chance of winning. Junior brother Ho, senior sister Zhua and senior sister Li are all strong 9th pin fighters. Especially the former, she didn't dare to say that she could win for sure. In the away team locker room, Geyser noticed that Li Mao, Sun Jian and the others looked tired. He let out a sigh and attracted everyone's attention. "Little Yen, What strategy do you think Donglin's squad will use? How will they line up? He pointed at Yin Zhika with a smile. Don't be shy. Analyze it for us. That's right. Coach Yin. Why don't you say something? Guoqing couldn't help laughing. Yin Zhika was confused and bewildered by the crowd's laughter. Her pretty face turned pink, but she didn't decline and said generously, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Donglin's squad must have seen the video of our match with Fearless Squad. They will definitely find a way to restrain Lu Cheng's abnormal physical strength. Speaking of her boyfriend's abnormal physical strength, she couldn't help but laugh. Then she despised herself in her mind. Yin Zhika, if this was a speech, there would be no way to save your laughter. You weren't like this before. Lu Cheng put on an innocent expression and mouthed silently. What's so funny about this? Yin Zhika glanced at him, took a deep breath and continued seriously. It's hard for them to determine the order of our battle, so they can't arrange Zhou Zhengquan, an 8th Pin Dan stage fighter, according to the order of Lu Cheng and Lin Quebec. I think they'll compromise and let Zhou Zhengquan be the second to fight. In this way, if we fight Lin Ke first, he will fight with Zhu Yanjun, Li Shengnan and Hou Yu, 3 strong professional 9th Pin fighters. If there are no accidents, it will be difficult for him to win quickly. That is to say, he will consume a lot of energy. And if he faces Zhou Zhengquan in such a state, it's hard to say if he can open up the situation for Lu Cheng. Once Lu Cheng faces Zhou Zhengquan, who is almost in perfect condition, no matter how good his physical strength is, he can't show it. If Lu Cheng goes first, with his abnormal physical strength, he may be able to challenge Zhou Zhengquan in his best condition, and create a chance for Lin Ke to win. But Lin Ke's physical strength is only average. After a fierce battle with a Dan stage fighter, what are his chances of winning against the remaining strong professional 9th Pin fighter of Donglin's squad? But we still have senior Sun Jian behind us, so we still have a chance. Listening to Yin Zhika's detailed explanation, Sun Jian, Li Mao and the rest nodded slightly. This was indeed the strategy that the Donglin battle team was most likely to adopt. Although it was a moderate strategy, it was effective enough. Besides, they also silently complained. Although we all know that Yin Zhika is Lu Cheng's girlfriend, don't show too obvious bias when you analyze. Don't always say that Lin Ke's physical strength is ordinary. Abnormal people like Cheng are abnormal. Are you bullying a single dog? Be careful not to affect the harmonious, lively, stable and united situation of the martial arts club. Feeling everyone's meaningful gaze and her cousin's inexplicable gaze, Yin Zhika couldn't help but reach out to touch her slightly hot cheeks. Was my analysis just now wrong? Why is everyone else so inexplicable except Cheng? She restrained her doubts and finally added. In addition, we have to pay attention to Hou Yu. He maintained an undefeated record in the previous group matches. At most, he took the initiative to quit because of excessive physical strength consumption. He hasn't shown his limit yet. In other words, no one knew whether Hou Yu had 1 or 2 more hidden skills compared to last year. And these were all things that Yin Zhika and Lu Cheng had discussed in private. Good analysis. Geezer sure nodded and smiled. Coach Sure, I have one more thing. Yin Zhika raised her hand to report, blushing. She accidentally forgot it just now. So embarrassing. Go ahead. Geezer sure nodded with a smile. Yin Zhika quickly added. The unique skills of the water sect are particular about nourishment and endurance. The martial arts derived from it all have the characteristics of good endurance. I believe that Wenxing School's fly-fall punch is no exception. Yes, fly-fall punch does have this characteristic. Zhou Zhengquan can be said to be quite good at restraining the 8th Pin Dan stage. Since Yin Zhika had discovered the blind spot that he had deliberately hidden, Geezer sure didn't mind explaining. However, both Lin Ke and Lu Cheng have improved a lot compared to when they went to Yimo. You don't have to worry too much about this. What's our main problem? Geezer sure chuckled. Yes, except for the 2 leading players, the substitutes are relatively weak. If it weren't for Wenxing School's pride and the fact that they thought they could win under normal circumstances, and didn't apply for a special competition format in advance, how could we have any hope? Sun Jian, Li Mao, Yin Zhika and the others were embarrassed by his words. But it's not even a year of special training. It's good that you can improve so fast. As an elder, Geyser comforted Li Mao warmly after giving him a lesson on setbacks. Li Mao, you've been getting better at still stance lately. It won't be long before you enter the entry level. At that time, with your physical fitness, it should be easy for you to reach the level of amateur first pin. Try to reach the level of professional ninth pin before November this year. Hearing Coach Shi's affirmation, Li Mao felt inexplicably excited and moved. Although he did think that he had gotten a feel for the still stance recently, he was still the kind of person who lacked confidence and dared not be blindly happy. He had always been nervous until Geyser's words calmed him down and made him feel a little more certain. As for Yu Yan, Geyser looked at Yin Zhika. After 2 or 3 months of training, your physical quality will be improved to the level where you can withstand the internal training method. Remember to ask for one from your family, and try to reach the level of professional ninth pin before November. Yes, yes. Yin Zhika pursed her lips and nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Her eyes were shining brightly. Thinking that she was getting closer and closer to the level of professional ninth pin, the girl couldn't hide her excitement. Lu Cheng's Thunder Roar Zen was not only a fighting method, but also an internal training method. With this method, one could practice martial arts into one's bones and body. The meteor force of the Ji family also included a similar part. The reason why Yin Zhika didn't use it was because her body hadn't reached that level yet. If she forced herself to practice it, it would only hurt her internal organs. Lu Cheng was also taught Thunder Roar Zen at the beginning of this semester. Guqing, you've practiced mountain moving fist very well, and you have some talent. In the next semester, not to mention Yan and Li Mao, there is still hope for you to reach the level of amateur first pin. Sun Jian, if you and Lin Hua insist on participating in the special training in the next 2 semesters, there is still hope for you to get the certificate of professional ninth pin before graduation. Geyser commented one by one and took the opportunity to educate them. In the end, he looked at Lu Cheng and Lin Ke and said with a smile, "As for the order of appearance, don't worry so much. Don't forget our original goal. We are here to practice in actual combat." Last time Lin Ke challenged an intact 8th pin Dan stage fighter. So this time it's Lu Cheng's turn. As he spoke, his face became serious. "Lu Cheng, you're the first to fight today." Lu Cheng took a deep breath and said loudly, "Okay. What would it be like to face an intact 8th pin Dan stage fighter?" Chapter 203. Wensheng School. In the locker room of the home team, sect leader Enai Mingfei was wearing an ancient-style practice suit. He stroked his beard and said, "I won't say more. Zhengquan, you're the second to fight. Do your best." "Yes, master." Zhou Zhengquan nodded calmly. Enai Mingfei looked at Hou Yu, who seemed to be restless. "Xiaoye, you're the first to fight. Both Lin Ke and Lu Cheng are very good opponents. Do your best and see how far you are from the top of the professional ninth pin." Hearing this, Hou Yu stopped all his restlessness and liveliness. He said solemnly, "Yes, master." In the live broadcast room of Donglin TV station, the host Wang Tian interrupted the guest Lin Maosheng and said with a smile, "The front office has sent back the list of fighters and the order. Donglin team has Hou Yu, Zhou Zhengquan and Zhu Yanjun. Songqing University Martial Arts Club has Lu Cheng, Lin Ke and Sun Jian. That is to say, the first fight is between Hou Yu and Lu Cheng. Hou Yu versus Lu Cheng." Yan Xiaoling moved the video window so that it was separated from the live post in the forum, and focused more attention on the fight. The list of fighters was fixed, which meant that the fight could start at any time. With Kai Zhongming leading the way, Zhang Jingye, Wu Qian, and the others hurriedly entered the training hall of Wensheng School. They were unfamiliar with the place, so they wasted a lot of time before finding the competition venue halfway up the mountain. They almost missed the beginning. As soon as they crossed the threshold, they were shocked by the solemn and quiet atmosphere. They thought they had gone to the wrong place and were stunned for a moment. They looked around until they found Lu Cheng and the others coming out of the locker room and sitting in the reserved seats. Then they settled down and breathed a sigh of relief. "It feels weird," Wu Qian whispered in Zhang Jingye's ear. This made him very depressed and uncomfortable. It was completely different from the excitement he expected to vent his feelings. In order to cheer for the team this time, Zhang Jingye had crammed some martial arts knowledge, but he still didn't understand the strangeness of Wenqing School's home ground. He could only explain, different home grounds have different characteristics. A cool wind blew through the mountain, making him shiver involuntarily. He felt like this place was like a tomb that had awakened ancient zombies. It was too old and too cold. Kai Zongming coughed twice to draw back the attention of Zhao Chong and the others. With the subtle feeling of leading a group of elementary school students on a trip, he led them to an empty seat and sat down. At this time, the referee stepped into the ring. After looking at both sides, he said in a clear voice, "In the quarterfinals of Songqing Division, Donglin Squad vs Songqing University Martial Arts Club. The first round, Houyu vs Lucheng." Lucheng took off his coat calmly and high-fived Yanzhika, who was beside him. "Don't be careless." Yanzhika reminded him with bright eyes. Lucheng smiled. "Don't worry." He mouthed the words, "Coach Yan." He and Yanzhika had discussed the issue of Houyu many times. Seeing his girlfriend smile, he high-fived everyone along the way and shouted a slogan. Only then did he turn around and walk along the road, walking towards the ring under the gazes of the silent audience. "Come on, Lucheng," Kai Zongming shouted subconsciously. He didn't fit in with the surrounding atmosphere, which made him feel like he was an idiot. He couldn't help blushing and whispered to himself, "This is King embarrassing." Hearing this lonely cheer, Yanzhika, Guiqing, Lin Hua and the others looked at each other, stood up from their seats and shouted in unison, "Come on, Lucheng." This was the tacit understanding and feelings of the martial arts club gradually condensed in the previous months. With the response, Kai Zongming was no longer embarrassed. He raised his hands and shouted, "Come on, Lucheng. Why care about others' gazes?" With him as an example, Wuxia, Zhang Jingye and the others gradually plucked up their courage and made the shape of a trumpet with their hands. "Come on, Lucheng." Their voices echoed and encouraged each other. They gradually integrated into the group and shouted more and more enthusiastically, echoing with Yanzhika and the others, breaking the quiet and old-fashioned atmosphere. There weren't many people, but they were firm enough. The audience in formal clothes were a little restless, as if they thought it would be more stupid to do nothing. So they applauded reservedly. In the messy applause, Lucheng stepped into the ring with a smile, warmed by the cheers of Yanzhika and Kai Zongming. Opposite him, Houyu shook his legs and scratched the side of his head, smiling sincerely. "You are very strong. I'm a little nervous. Can you not talk to me?" Lucheng laughed involuntarily and nodded graciously. "Okay." Sure enough, he is a child under 18. He thought like an old man. During the 3-minute conversation, in the live broadcast room of Donglin TV station, the guest Lin Maoxing smiled slightly and said, "I've checked the information. Lucheng is already a professional 9th pin fighter. Every time you introduce him, you don't have to emphasize that although he has no rank, he has surpassed most of the professional 9th pin fighters. There was a time when I thought Lucheng would try his best to develop his supernatural ability and find a chance to participate in the ranking event of professional 8th pin, after his body had been tempered to the current limit. Then he would directly become a professional 8th pin fighter." The host Wang Tian also sighed with emotion. "Coach Lin, do you think Houyu has a chance to defeat Lucheng?" Lin Maoxing thought for a while and said, "The hope is not big. But Houyu is a seedling that Wenqing School focuses on. He must have something special. If Lucheng underestimates his opponent, he may suffer some losses, which will have a great impact on the final result of the competition." Wang Tian nodded slightly and said, "Coach Lin is right. Our reporter has interviewed several disciples of Wenqing School and found that they are, inexplicably confident about Houyu." While they were explaining in Lucheng's fan forum, Brahman said, twisting with arms akimbo expression, "These people are so unprofessional. Little Dragon is the best. He found out that our idol got a professional 9th pin certificate on the same day." Unparalleled Dragon King said in a daze, "When did I become Little Dragon? Are you going to call me Little Loach in the future? Besides, if you know his name and domicile, you can check it on the official website." After hanging out with girls like Brahman, Eternal Nightfall, and Wonton Seller for a long time, He felt that his mentality had become younger. Sometimes he would inadvertently act cute while talking. The internet is really scary. Little dragon, little dragon, little dragon. How many moves do you think our Lu Qing can beat this monkey? Yan Xiaoling asked excitedly. Unparalleled Dragon King replied with a scornful expression. Don't underestimate any professional ninth pin. If there is no unexpected thing, it will be very difficult for Lu Qing to win quickly. Oh, I understand. Yan Xiaoling didn't feel offended and didn't mind exposing her IQ in this aspect. In the arena, Lu Qing kept his promise and didn't disturb Hou. He adjusted himself to the best state, and finally considered the next fighting strategy. During this process, he vaguely felt a sense of oppression and anxiety, as if a storm was about to come. Lu Qing felt that this was not because of Hou, but because of Zhou Zhengquan, who was the second to fight. Outsiders only knew that his stamina was limitless and he was not afraid of taking turns to fight, but they didn't know that his energy was limited. Thunder Roar Zen was okay, but he could only use Frost Force 3 times. If too much energy was consumed by Hou, then when he faced Zhou Zhengquan, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to create the best chance for his brother-in-law to win. I must try to save energy in this fight with Hou. And the best way to save energy is to go all out without holding back, and try to win in 4 or 5 moves. Lu Qing took a breath and the ripples in his heart gradually stopped, and the water condensed into ice. The referee looked at the electronic clock, raised his right hand and waved it down heavily. Start! Lu Qing was like a sprinter who heard the starting gun. The power that he had been accumulating for a long time burst out. He stamped his feet, straightened his bent knees, and quickly rushed to Hou like a cloud leopard hunting for prey. He knew that in addition to fly-fall punch, Hou also specially visited a famous teacher and learned monkey form kung fu, which was very good at dodging. Therefore, he didn't directly prepare Frost Force and Thunder Roar Zen. If he missed, wouldn't it be a waste of energy? Facing Lu Qing's attack, Hou swayed his body like a flexible monkey. He flashed to the side of Lu Qing and suddenly and quickly kicked out his right leg. At this moment, Lu Qing's spine bounced, his waist and back wriggled, and his center of gravity swayed like mercury. He unexpectedly changed his direction in a split second, and made Hou's kick hit nothing. He immediately visualized rolling lead clouds in his mind, and compressed the corresponding muscles one after another. He turned his waist and back and shook out his right arm like a hammer. Thunder Roar Zen. Hou's face slightly changed. He suddenly fell back and did 3 somersaults in a row. Not only did he pull away from Lu Qing, but he also firmly maintained his center of gravity. Lu Qing didn't show any mercy. He exerted strength under his feet and crushed the black bricks. He chased after Hou. Although you somersaults are fast, you can't be faster than me. Just when Hou stopped, Lu Qing had already caught up with him. He tightened the muscles of his palm, forearm, and upper arm and swung his left fist. The second move of Thunder Roar Zen. Chapter 204. The strong wind blew and Hou's pupils suddenly shrank. His sight was occupied by Lu Qing's figure. He felt that he had nowhere to hide from Lu Qing's swinging left fist. At this critical moment, he curled up his body like an agile monkey and squatted down to dodge Lu Qing's Thunder Roar Zen. Then he put his left hand behind his hip and reached out his right hand to grab the enemy's crotch at lightning speed. Monkey steals peach, evading and attacking at the same time. It wasn't that Lu Qing hadn't used similar moves before, but they were all improvised. He hadn't specifically practiced them, so the subsequent connection was quite rough. However, the peach stealing of the monkey shape was the result of countless years of hard work by countless generations of martial artists. The slightest carelessness in response would put him in danger in the subsequent changes. He was shocked, and the Thunder Roar Zen in his left hand burst out as usual, hitting the void and creating circles of invisible ripples. With the help of the subtle recoil, the bounce of the spine and the change of the center of gravity, he forcibly pulled his body and dodged to the side. Then he tightened his thighs and kicked Hou, who was still squatting on the ground. Hou didn't succeed in stealing the peach, so he immediately pressed down his left hand behind his back and jumped out with ease. He easily avoided Lu Qing's kick, and showed one of the changes of monkey steel's peach vividly. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he came close to Lucheng. He put strength in his abdomen, connected the fascia of his body, shook out his right arm and hit Lucheng at an extremely fast speed, leaving no time for Lucheng to prepare the tremor punch. Lucheng was not in a hurry. He put his arm up to block steadily and borrowed some strength. But at this moment, the strength in Hou Yu's shoulder exploded. He clenched his left hand into a fist and punched out. Faster than Lucheng's counterattack and faster than his return. Fly-fall punch. Continuous. The gurgling water flowed continuously. The core of this style of fighting was to abandon the use of both feet and purely use the muscles, joints, and fascia of the corresponding parts to make a move. The power of this style was definitely not as powerful as the former, but it was faster and more compact. Hou Yu hoped to disrupt Lucheng's rhythm of tensing up the muscles or preparing the ice sect force. Win by speed. Seeing Hou Yu's left fist coming fast, Lucheng took a breath, put his right arm up, lowered his waist and put strength in his feet. Bang! Just as the two of them clashed, he straightened his knees and turned his back. Most of his muscles trembled as he sent out a strong swing force. Hou Yu suddenly felt that he was sitting on the rotary flying chair of the amusement park, and his body involuntarily flew to the side. He quickly adjusted his center of gravity in midair. As soon as he landed, he executed his footwork and fled forward like an agile monkey. Lucheng took large strides, pouncing and catching up. In a few steps, he had already caught up to him. His muscles, tendons, and internal organs changed accordingly. In his mind, he visualized a surging river. His thunder roar zen might not be able to affect Hou Yu too much within 1 or 2 strikes, so his frost force was much safer. If he didn't take advantage of this opportunity to make this monkey stiffen up and allow it to jump around again, his energy consumption would be even greater. Feeling the breath close behind him, Hou Yu suddenly stomped his feet like 2 iron nails firmly nailed to the ground. His body turned around and swung his waist and back. In his mind, he visualized mountains and lakes that were constantly accumulating. Splash! The embankment of the lake collapsed, and the flood poured down in a terrifying manner. It affected the corresponding muscles and tendons of Hou Yu's body, so that he punched out both of his fists fiercely. His punch not only had a terrifying impact, but also had the power to slap the enemy and the swing force to throw the enemy away. It was actually a combination of several kinds of force exertion skills, which was really a high-level fist art. Fly-fall punch. Dam break. Lucheng was so confident that he didn't dodge. Instead, he activated the cold current in his body and froze the surging river in his mind. Instantly, the waves became crystal clear, and the cold current turned into a tide. Frost force. Bang. Hou Yu's punches were very skillful. They didn't hit left and right, but left and right. Combined with the momentum of the flood breaking the dam, they dispersed part of the cold force and threw Lucheng away. However, his body trembled as if a cold wind came from inside. His lips instantly turned blue, and his arms were obviously stiff. He didn't take the opportunity to counterattack. Thump, thump, thump. He heard his own violent heartbeat and felt the blood gushing to his torso and limbs. I'm alive. For a moment, he actually had such a feeling. This was the result after he dispersed part of the cold force by himself. It's really terrible. After being thrown away, Lucheng stretched his body in the air and landed steadily. Then he took a step forward, stepped on the bricks, and turned around to launch a strong attack again. He wanted to take advantage of his opponent's cold and stiff body to force him to fight head-on. Facing this, Hou Yu seized the last moment, took a deep breath, and made a humming sound. He shook his muscles, fascia, and internal organs with the internal training method, and dissolved part of the cold. When Lucheng was about to come close, he lifted his leg and dodged nimbly. The two people, one chasing and the other escaping, kept changing their positions on the field, like a tiger trying to catch an ape. During this process, Lucheng found an opportunity from time to time to use Thunder Roar Zen, but the result was that his opponent dodged again and again with his weird and flexible body movements. In the guest team seats, Yinjika slightly frowned her soft and beautiful eyebrows and said to herself, "Why do I feel something is wrong?" Geyser beside her said leisurely. He fought too hastily. Ah. Yenjika turned her head blankly. Geyser laughed and said, after a life-and-death battle, you know that you have to go all out at any time. This is a good thing, but you also need to know how to judge the situation. No standard is suitable for all situations. Facing an opponent like Hoyu, if you blindly pursue haste and fierceness, you will get half the result with twice the effort. You can try to recall how many tremor punches he had missed. Yenjika suddenly understood, but her eyebrows were still furrowed. She clearly remembered that in the discussion a few days ago, the enemy she and Chung had deduced the most was Hoyu, besides Zhou Zhengquan. The agreed fighting strategy was to focus on oneself, not to compete with Hoyu's body movements, but to seize the opportunity to use mercurial balance to block the follow-up changes and attack him at close range. But now Qing is very impatient. Is there any change in the field that I don't see? So Chung has to be like this? Is it Hoyu's trump card? In the arena, after a while of chasing and fighting, Hoyu, who was still affected by the frost force and consumed a lot of strength, gradually showed a little delay. Lu Qing shook his center of gravity and changed his direction continuously to block. Finally, Hoyu was half a beat slower and his opponent was in front of him. Lu Qing took a step forward with his left foot, guarding against the opponent's monkey steals the peach. His right arm tightened and compressed the corresponding muscles. And with the thunder in his mind, he blasted out a tremor zen. This time, he had enough confidence and follow-up changes to make his opponent unable to dodge. Hoyu suddenly stopped, with a rare solemn expression. He lowered his waist, stabilized his center of gravity, and the corresponding muscles of his body suddenly contracted. In his mind, streams of water continued to gather and rise. In the end, they accumulated a mighty force and rushed down from the cliff. They fiercely hit the ground and splashed fiercely. Fly-fall punch, waterfall. This was a rather difficult fighting style to master. It was similar to the tremor punch. This was a killing move that Hoyu had barely learned in the past 6 months, and he had been waiting to try it today. Bang! Lu Qing and Hoyu's fists collided, and there seemed to be circles of shock waves in the air. Both of them felt that their muscles and fascias were shaking and trembling. Hoyu, who had been prepared, wriggled his abdomen and made a humming sound to barely stop the shock. He seized the opportunity and rushed forward, throwing out a punch. Flying fall straight. At the critical moment, Lu Qing, who had been guarding against Hoyu's trump card, suddenly exhaled and made a sound like thunder in his abdomen, creating a reverse shock and counteracting most of the impact. His muscles wriggled and his spine straightened. When Hoyu's fist was about to hit him, he bounced back and stepped back steadily and orderly, calmly avoiding the blow. Then he stepped forward, swung his left arm, visualized a thundercloud, and hammered down fiercely. Hoyu had no time to dodge, so he could only forcibly raise his arms to resist. Bang! Under the thunder roar zen, his body seemed to be beaten to the ground, and his chi and blood were rolling fiercely. Lu Qing would not give him any chance to dodge, so he unreasonably swung his arms and hammered again and again. Bang! 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 Hoyu was dizzy, and his chi and blood rushed to his throat. He staggered and barely held on with his last bit of willpower. Lu Qing stopped the thunder roar zen, and stopped in front of his opponent. Hoyu's eyes were blank, and his legs were weak. He fell to the ground without any external force and kept retching. Phew, finally won. Lu Qing exhaled a mouthful of foul air, and his mind was a little clearer. He felt the heat flow from the jindan, soothing the tiredness of his body, and also felt a little empty in his head. In the guest team seats, Yenjika stood up happily with her fists clenched. Then she thought of the videos she had watched before. Most of the strong fighters who fought with Hoyu did not choose to fight steadily, but to attack fiercely just like Chung. Could it be? Her heart stirred as she thought of a certain possibility. Could it be that Hoyu had a supernatural ability that could make his opponent irritable? Lu Qing rubbed his temples subconsciously, and also felt something was wrong. At the beginning, he had expected to go all out without holding back. Once there was a chance, he would not hesitate to use the frost force to finish Hoyu quickly and save more energy. However, the more he fought, the more anxious he became. He even fought with Hoyu's strong points, and missed several thunder roar zen. The consumption was much greater than expected. He sobered up and recalled what happened before. Suddenly, he grasped the feeling of depression and impatience that he had felt at the very beginning. This is not normal. Can Hoyu affect my mood? Lu Qing narrowed his eyes and could not help but look at Hoyu, who was being helped down the stage. He saw that Hoyu's legs were like noodles, and he could not stand steadily. At the same time, he also saw Zhou Zhengquan take off his coat and calmly walk to the arena. Chapter 205. Lu Qing wins the first round. As the referee's voice reverberated, Guqing, Lin Hua and the others in the away team seats were all excited for Lu Qing's victory. Let's see how far Qing can go in the fight with Zhou Zhengquan. Sun Jian said with joy and expectation. Li Mao nodded and said, yeah. In their eyes, Lu Qing was famous for his abnormal physical strength. Taking turns to fight him would be useless. As long as he could defeat Hoyu, he would be able to face the professional 8th pin Dan stage mighty one in his best condition. Feeling the high spirits of her companions, Yanjika bit her lower lip and said nothing. Others thought that as long as Cheng was not defeated, he would be able to face the challenges of the following opponents in perfect condition. However, she knew clearly that Cheng also had his limits. After the tremor massage in the ranking event, she found a chance to ask him about it. She knew that his physical strength was indeed abnormal, more than 10 times or even dozens of times that of ordinary people. However, his energy and spirit were not the same. Relying on meditation, he was only 3 or 4 times stronger than fighters of the same rank, which was still human. After such a battle, he would not be relaxed now. She thought of his perseverance in massaging her with the tremor force. She thought of his tiredness when he fell asleep as soon as his head hit the pillow. She thought of her own heartache and heartbeat at that time. She thought of his kiss when he was brimming with warmth and passion. Her eyes were filled with tenderness and expectation. Lu Qing, come on Lu Qing. In the stands, Kai Zongming, Zhang Jingye and other followers showed their joy and excitement without hiding. They ignored the unfriendly looks and vented their feelings to their heart's content. When Zhou Zhengquan was about to enter the arena, they took a breather. Professional 8th pin Dan stage. Will Lu Qing be okay? Wu Qian asked worriedly. Her forehead was covered with sweat and her cheeks were flushed because of the intense shouting. As a college student who grew up in today's society, even if she seldom touched martial arts, she still knew the common sense of ranks. Zhang Jingye said with a bright smile, it's okay. Didn't I tell you? Cheng's physical strength is so freakish that he has no friends. Now he is like a beginner. Although he probably can't beat an 8th pin Dan stage fighter, at least he can create a lot of trouble for his opponent. Lin Ke will have an easier time later. Kai Zongming and the others nodded, making the girls in the female dormitory even more excited. This is going to be a good show. Yi Yaoting changed her sitting posture and stared at the ring with great interest. She was the kind of person who craved for the whole world to be in chaos. Although Lu Qing had left her with a deep impression of defeat and a sense of frustration for not being a genius, and although Zhou Zhengquan was a friend whom she called senior brother, she still hoped that there would be some unexpected excitement. She still hoped that both of them could fight to the death. Jiang Lan smiled faintly and sighed. With his stamina, little brother Zhou won't have it easy. Unfortunately, it was obvious that Lu Qing had not reached the peak of body refining. Otherwise, with such martial arts strength, coupled with the core force of the ice sect based on his supernatural ability and the continuous tremor punch, it was not impossible for him to defeat an 8th pin fighter of Dan stage. It was not impossible for him to fight for the certificate of professional 8th pin. Stepping into the Dan stage meant reaching rank 8, but rank 8 did not necessarily mean that one was in the Dan stage. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Unparalleled Dragon King posted a post. Lu Cheng's fight just now was a bit strange. It was like he was trying to hit a mosquito with a hammer weighing thousands of pounds. Eternal Nightfall, Yin Shaoling replied with Nike mouth. So what? Anyway, he won. With his stamina, what's the big deal about swinging a few times? I'm just saying it casually. Lu Qing used to be very talented in fighting. This shouldn't happen. Unparalleled Dragon King, was not angry at the little girl's rebuke. I don't care. I don't care. Anyway, he won. Yan Shaoling replied firmly. Brahman, who was watching the match attentively, also said, That's right. Who doesn't perform well on the spot sometimes? And his coach is super awesome. He will definitely give him a summary after the match. Unparalleled Dragon King could only send a what else can I say emoji. Little dragon, to what extent do you think my idol and that Zhou what you want fight? Brahman asked lively. Unparalleled Dragon King thought for a while and said, Lu Cheng's stamina is definitely at its peak. Even if he can't win against an 8th pin of Dan's stage, it won't be easy for him to win. He will have to pay a certain price. And the longer the fight drags on, the better it will be for him. Haha, little dragon, you are such a good guy. Brahman generously sent a good guy card. In the seats of Wenxing School, seeing Hou being supported back, Shui Yanjun couldn't help but sigh. Little monkey, what a pity. Li Shengnen followed and said, Sigh, if you didn't meet Lu Cheng whose stamina is like a bug, but Lin Ke, you might have won. Using the monkey form to constantly distract the opponent, and make him use his killing moves because of his impatience. This could be an effective way to deal with a top professional 9th pin fighter. Not necessarily. Hou smiled bitterly and shook his head. My supernatural ability can only affect the opponent's mood, but it can't change their thinking. Other 9th pin fighters may be impatient, but they won't always use moves that consume a lot of energy. Speaking of this, he suddenly thought of Lu Cheng just now. He felt that Lu Cheng was like a bottomless sea. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't make him feel tired at all. In the end, he could still throw out Tremor Punch like a storm. It was terrifying. In the arena, Lu Cheng took a breath to relieve the emptiness in his mind. Looking at Zhou Zhengquan, who was calmly walking up the stone steps, he started to think about his next move. He and Yan Zhika had discussed Zhou Zhengquan's martial arts, strength and characteristics many times, so he was quite familiar with them. After a brief recollection, the key points flashed in his mind. In view of this, Lu Cheng decided to think from Zhou Zhengquan's perspective. He wanted to see how Zhou Zhengquan saw him. His most important impression of me must be that I have the supernatural abilities of flame and frost. With the latter, I have mastered one of the core forces of the ice sect. My physical strength is abnormal, and I am not afraid of taking turns to fight. I seem to be able to use Tremor Punch all the time. At thinking of this, Lu Cheng's heart suddenly jolted as he grasped a certain key point. His energy was limited, and he couldn't throw out Tremor Punch all the time. This was a secret that only he and Ku knew. Even his master only vaguely knew about it. In other words, in Zhou Zhengquan's eyes, he was not tired at present, and it was impossible for him to be tired. Therefore, it was better to bluff and set up an empty fort strategy to create an opportunity to use the frost force. Lu Cheng felt a little regretful that his severe warning was just a threshold and couldn't be applied in actual combat. Otherwise, there would be hope for him to turn the situation around. Of course, after the fight with Hou, he had a new understanding of Zhou Zhengquan. The water sect had the move of accumulating strength and erupting suddenly, while the Dan stage had the move of condensing the whole body's strength and erupting suddenly. The combination of the two may have an unexpected effect. Watching Zhou Zhengquan's fights in the past 6 months, because he had never fought with a Dan stage fighter, and all of them were professional 9th pin fighters. This didn't show, but it didn't mean that it didn't exist. He had to be careful of this. While he was thinking, Zhou Zhengquan, who had always maintained his composure, finally walked to the opposite side. He patted his dark martial arts suit, bent his legs, and leisurely made the starting gesture of fly-fall punch. Lu Cheng put away all kinds of thoughts and put his body in the best condition again. This would be the first time he faced a complete 8th pin fighter. The referee raised his right hand, looked left and right, and then suddenly waved it down. Start. Lu Cheng deliberately created an illusion that he was not tired at all. He turned his spine into a bowstring, bent it and then bounced it. Then he exerted force on his legs and leaped out like an arrow, launching an attack in a head-on manner. Zhou Zhengquan's eyelids twitched, but he looked self-satisfied and his posture didn't change. Dan stage fighters had absolute reaction, so he didn't feel Lu Cheng's intention to attack. When Lu Cheng approached Zhou Zhengquan, he swayed his center of gravity and completed a sliding step like a flying fairy. In a flash, he flashed to the side of Zhou Zhengquan. He straightened his back, raised his right hand, and was about to throw a downward punch. Zhou Zhengquan calmly put his right arm forward and took a step to the right. At this moment, Lu Cheng's spine squirmed, swayed his center of gravity again, and pulled his body back to the position before the sliding step. Then he stepped on the ground, shook his waist, and moved his fascia. His right fist was like a cannonball. However, Zhou Zhengquan's back muscles bulged, his spine bounced, and pulled his body back with the posture of mercurial center of gravity. Purely by the abdominal muscles, he shook his left arm as fast as lightning. Fly-fall punch, continuous. You can't hide from me when you are feinting, and when you are making a real move. But you want to compete with me in mercurial center of gravity? Isn't this like showing off in front of a Luban? Lu Cheng's mercurial center of gravity would affect his strength, and once he lowered his waist, it would be obvious when he wanted to shake his center of gravity again. However, the mercurial center of gravity of a Dan stage fighter was based on the unity of the strength of the whole body, which had turned into an instinct of the body. He could use it and disperse it at will, and there was almost no connection problem. Bang! The two fists collided, and they shook at the same time. They were evenly matched. Lu Cheng used his feet to exert strength, while Zhou Zhengquan only used the corresponding muscles. This was the gap between Lu Cheng and an 8th pin Dan stage fighter. After one successful move, Zhou Zhengquan's connection was faster and more compact than Hou Yu's. Under the situation of the unity of the whole body, his every move was equivalent to the strength of Lu Cheng's feet. Back strength, abdominal muscles bulging, shoulder explosive strength, fascia pulling, joint 1-inch punch. Zhou Zhengquan's moves were faster and faster, launching continuous attacks, leaving Lu Cheng no time to tighten and compress his muscles. He didn't even dare to use the strength of his feet. He could only reluctantly follow his opponent and make moves with his abdomen, back, joints, and fascia. After a few moves, he was almost beaten out of his stance and was in danger. However, Lu Cheng didn't panic. The current situation was what he had expected at the beginning of the attack. He was replicating the fight with Wei Xingtian. Since he didn't have time to compress his muscles and make a tremor punch, he would rely on his opponent's oppressive strength to do it passively, bit by bit. After a few moves, he consciously controlled his right hand, right arm, and right shoulder to complete the tightening. The thundercloud in his mind exploded, and Lu Cheng swung his waist and back. Under the impact of his opponent's continuous flood, he suddenly counterattacked with his right fist. The first move of Thunder Roar Zen. Chapter 206. Bang! When Zhou Zhengquan's shoulder exploded, he swung out his left arm and hit Lu Cheng's fist. However, it was like hitting a bomb. He only felt a buzzing sound in his ears. The impact was abrupt, and the strong shock spread instantly. He felt like he jumped on the spot. His muscles, joints, and fascia were all trembling involuntarily. Tremor punch. His pupils shrank slightly and he took a short breath. Lu Cheng was not going to let his opponent go. He straightened his back and tightened his left arm. He was going to swing his arm and hit continuously to create a more terrifying shock for the next Frost Force attack. He didn't want to give his opponent a chance to dodge. At this moment, he felt that with the short breath, Zhou Zhengquan's rolling qi and blood, external strength, and living spirit seemed to be shrinking inward. The full outbreak of a mighty one of the Dan stage? Lu Cheng thought. According to what he had experienced and observed before. He bounced his spine and took a step to the side to avoid the front. He didn't want to use Thunder Roar Zen to fight with his opponent head-on. In that way, although Zhou Zhengquan would suffer more violent shock, his body would definitely be broken up or even fly out. If he was careless, he would be defeated and unable to further weaken his opponent. He had to endure the impulse and wait for the best opportunity. But when he stepped away, Zhou Zhengquan's qi and blood stabilized. His abdomen wriggled and his mouth made a humming sound. The contraction and consolidation just now were like an illusion. The shock stopped quickly. Zhou Zhengquan put on a leisurely smile, as if he was saying, "I was just fooling you." He straightened his knees and pounced on his opponent again. His speed and momentum were so fast that they almost turned into substance and pressed on Lu Cheng's heart. Lu Cheng couldn't help but feel a little annoyed that the opportunity he had created with painstaking effort was so easily solved by his opponent. However, the negative feeling disappeared in a flash as the lake in his heart froze into ice. This was a bad thing, but also a good thing. At least it made Zhou Zhengquan sure that he wasn't tired. Because of this, he had to be cautious and look for a better opportunity to delay the battle. The real one who cut off all means of retreat was like a wolf or a tiger. Once he found blood, he would pounce on it regardless of his own safety. Later, he would be able to surprise him with this. In the face of Zhou Zhengquan's flood-like attack, Lu Cheng calmly took a few steps back. During this process, he maintained his center of gravity and footwork with his superb control over his body, as if he had another pair of eyes in the back of his head. While Lu Cheng kept retreating, Zhou Zhengquan kept attacking. The distance between them was quickly narrowing. When Lu Cheng had accumulated enough strength and momentum to launch a fierce counterattack, imitating Lin Kei's story of retreating in order to advance, Zhou Zhengquan swung his center of gravity and sprung his spine. Without any hesitation, he circled to the side. His timing was perfect, giving Lu Cheng the uncomfortable feeling of hitting cotton with 1,000 kilograms of force. The ability of the Dan stage, absolute reaction. Zhou Zhengquan and Wei Xingtian had completely different fighting styles. What was effective for the latter might not work for the former, just like now. Lu Cheng was once again pushed to the front by Zhou Zhengquan. He was once again attacked by Zhou Zhengquan's continuous momentum of fly-fall punch. Low kick, exploding shoulder, 1-inch punch, claw, and crushing punch burst out alternately. This time Lu Cheng learned to be smart. He calmed down and borrowed strength from the listening force. Instead of using his feet, he relied on the 24 blizzard strikes to cooperate with the corresponding body parts to make up for the disadvantage in strength and connection. Sometimes he pulled the fascius on both sides and quickly punched. Sometimes he swelled his back muscles to rebound and counterattack. Sometimes he outlined his abdominal muscles and borrowed strength to fight back. Gradually he grasped the meaning of 24 blizzard strikes and solved the flaws in his connection. The more he fought, the crazier, fiercer, and faster he fought. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The two of them kept colliding in the small space, stirring up muffled sounds of fists hitting flesh and blood. At the end of the fight, Lu Cheng deeply understood what it meant to have the strength of the Dan stage as one. Even if he tried his best, he couldn't stop the disadvantage from coming slowly. During this process, Zhou Zhengquan, who was wearing a black martial arts suit, constantly changed the direction of his mercurial balance to create an uncomfortable change of rhythm. This was to prevent Lu Cheng from being forced to compress and use tremor punch. At the same time, Zhou Zhengquan dispersed the accumulated strength of his listening skill and disrupted the connection of 24 blizzard strikes. He displayed a martial arts foundation that was far superior to his opponent. Zhou Zhengquan was not discouraged. He had only been practicing martial arts for half a year. Although he had undergone a complete transformation with the help of the Jindan and his own hard work, he was still far behind Zhou Zhengquan in terms of details and experience, who had been practicing martial arts since he was a child, and had been practicing martial arts for a long time. Only when you find the problem and the gap can you know how to make up for it. Who would be at full level at the beginning? Lu Cheng was about to be defeated by the dripping water to penetrate the stone, and his opponent was about to defeat him in a way that didn't consume much energy. Suddenly, he stabilized his center of gravity and lowered his waist to sit in his crotch. He pushed his feet inward. When his arm touched Zhou Zhengquan's fist, he suddenly turned his waist and back. His muscles and joints all opened up and threw out a strong swing force like a volcanic eruption. Zhou Zhengquan's upper body immediately swung to the side, but his feet were firmly nailed to the original position. Crack. Obvious cracks appeared on the green brick where he was standing. His body fiercely bounced back. Lu Cheng had expected this. He took the opportunity to visualize rolling thunder clouds and tightened and compressed the corresponding muscles. Bang. He stepped on the green brick with his feet and broke it. His two shoes collapsed and turned into fluttering butterflies. The strong rebound went all the way up through his ankle and knee joints. Lu Cheng straightened his back and swung his right arm to punch Zhou Zhengquan with the force of 1,000 pounds. Boom! The thunder clouds in his mind exploded, and there seemed to be a burst of vibration. Facing this, Zhou Zhengquan, who took the initiative to attack, didn't have time to dodge. He also visualized the accumulated water and the rising posture, completely integrating the rebound force into himself. Splash! The water current surged, flying straight down, hitting the ground, splashing up waves. Fly-fall punch, waterfall. Bang! Circles of invisible ripples spread out from the place where the two fists met. Lu Cheng's qi and blood were surging, his muscles and joints were trembling obviously, and he felt like vomiting. But he was prepared. His abdominal muscles wriggled, and together with the thunder clouds in his mind, made a buzzing sound and counteracted most of the impact with a reverse vibration. Opposite him, Zhou Zhengquan also neutralized the impact with a humming sound. After a pause, Lu Cheng tightened the instep without shoes, turned his waist and whipped out a whip kick. Zhou Zhengquan seemed to recover faster than him. He calmly bulged his thigh muscles and kicked at the right time to block. Bang! The two collided in the air, and suddenly a little bit of white frost condensed and disappeared in a flash. Zhou Zhengquan felt a chill in his heart. He immediately felt the rolling cold wave penetrating his shoes, into his skin and into his blood, bringing a chill that made his body stiff. Ice-sect force? His lips suddenly turned blue, and his eyes were full of surprise. Lu Cheng retracted his right foot, bent his body and was about to shake out his arm. But in his mind, the crystal-clear river sealed thousands of miles away, locking the kinetic energy. The so-called force could not only be released through the hands. It had been more than a month since he defeated the Azure Dragon squad. Although he didn't master the severe warning, he had practiced the frost force to his feet. Because his own special ability wasn't strong enough, if the cold wave passed through both his and the enemy's martial arts shoes, it would weaken to the point where the martial artist could withstand it. Therefore, he had taken the initiative to destroy his shoes just now, all for this unexpected kick. Zhou Zhengquan's body was stiff for a short time. Seeing that Lu Cheng was about to take advantage of his surprise attack, he couldn't wait for the next round. In an instant, his qi and blood, his spirit, his willpower, and his whole body's strength all contracted to his abdomen, as if condensing into a human body Big Dan. Even the feeling of cold and stiffness was integrated into it. Lu Cheng knew that he was about to face the explosive attack of a Dan stage master, but he didn't dodge. Instead, he calmly adjusted his body and reluctantly visualized the turbid river flowing in the ice field again. He didn't have the energy to wait any longer. He had to fight with his back to the river and cut off all means of retreat. The cold wave rushed and froze the river quickly. Even the falling waves were condensed into ice crystals. Everything seemed to be still. Lu Cheng stepped on the ground, put strength in his waist and back, and pushed his shoulder, and threw out a cold punch. Frost force cold wave tide. Boom. Zhou Zhengquan's human body Big Dan exploded, spewing out a mighty force, dispelling the cold and driving away the stiffness. Bang. His right fist was like a flood that broke through a dam, striking out powerfully. Bang. Lu Cheng was directly sent flying, and a layer of white frost condensed on Zhou Zhengquan's right arm for a short time. Thump 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 thump, thump thump. Zhou Zhengquan's heartbeat suddenly became so violent that even the audience at the side of the arena seemed to be able to hear it. Following that, his blood rushed out like a rushing river, breaking the ice layer and the stiffness. However, Lu Cheng's energy was already at its limit. He barely managed to successfully use the last frost force. Now that he was flying in the air, he wanted to adjust his muscles and regain his center of gravity as usual. He had more than enough strength, but not enough heart. With a flop, he directly fell on the ground of the arena, which made Yin Zhika worried. Zhou Zhengquan stepped forward. His body was a little slow, but he rushed to Lu Cheng's side before he turned over and stood up. Bang! He tightened his thighs and quickly whipped out. Lu Cheng barely raised his arms to block, but he was whipped out of his stance. Bang! Zhou Zhengquan repeatedly kicked, not giving him a chance to breathe. The instep of his foot stopped at his neck. The second round, Zhou Zhengquan wins. The referee raised his right hand. Lu Qing took a breath and stood up steadily. He didn't show his actual tiredness. After slightly nodding as a greeting, he quickly turned around and walked out of the arena. Although his first frost force blocked Zhou Zhengquan's martial art shoes, and the second one was an arrow at the end of its flight, but the combination of the two could still beat a direct hit of the frost force. Of course, he couldn't give this professional 8th pin of the dance stage more time to recover. This could be considered to have accomplished the initial goal. In the guest team seats, Lin Ke took off his coat with a cold face and strode out. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.